Hello, and welcome to Party Select, a podcast where two dudes and a guy who's their friend talk about the best thing there is, video games. My name is Shea. I will be your host for this episode. I'm joined, as always, by Kyle and Cody. And guys, before we jump in, as always, a lot of things to talk about, but I have to ask you a quick question. Some preamble for the quick question.
Okay.
Ubisoft is currently undergoing an attempt at a sale. The sale is going about as well as their business has been going over the last couple of years, but they currently just divested a lot of their big IP into a separate conglomerate that they've not even renamed yet, and they had a huge investment of funds from Tencent because Tencent wants to buy Ubisoft.
Right. Yeah.
And it got me to thinking,
how do you buy that company that big when you only have 10 cents?
That's how far they've fallen, apparently.
Dude, you got them. But see, it's 10 cents in Bitcoin, so it's actually like billions of dollars.
It's actually infinite. It's infinite money.
Infinite money.
M-U-N-N-Y, like Kingdom Hearts money.
Like Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts, you know.
All that to say, the quick question is, if it were up to you about who would buy Ubisoft, and more importantly, like who would take over the IP that Ubisoft has, who would you choose? The Assassin's Creeds, Far Cry, all the Tom Clancy bullshit, Star Wars Outlaws, a sequel to the hit game Star Wars Outlaws. Who would you want to make that? Kyle, who would you choose to buy Ubisoft?
I think I care the most about Splinter Cell. And
so anyone that will make a Splinter Cell game.
Yeah, like
answer?
Hands down would be great. If they were just to do a Splinter Cell game, kind of, as long as it's not a roguelike, I'm down. I think Eidos Montreal would make a really interesting choice. I don't like they work with Square Enix and they support developer on some other stuff. But just thinking of Deus Ex, because Deus Ex kind of straddles the line between arcadey and simmy. With their kind of 3 lanes, talk your way through, hack your way through, / sneak your way through, and fight your way through. Those are kind of the 3 lanes that they do. Yeah. And I think their stealth stuff, the stealth hacking stuff, tends to be the most fun way to play those games. So it would be interesting for them to make, I think, a Splinter Cell game that has more choice in how you were to approach. Because the old Splinter Cells, there aren't a lot of pathways to get to where you need to go. It's really kind of corridor, tighter stuff. There's kind of 1 or 2 ways to do it. It'd be interesting to see what their approach to more options in a Splinter Cell would be. And I think they would be good at creating all of the systems, the systemic systems-based gameplay that they're known for, in Prey and their Dishonored. Sorry, that's Arcane, in the Deus Ex games. Yeah. Now, if Arcane was still around, that would be an interesting one too. If if that team that made Prey was still around, they would make an interesting semi Splinter Cell game. That's probably mine.
And the rest of the IP you just don't give a shit about. If they want to make a new AC game, great. Really. If not, who cares?
Yeah, not really at this point. I think I'm kind of done.
I don't blame you. But I also think that can be Ubisoft fatigue. A new studio making a game like that might make you excited because they would do something new. But
right. Yeah. It's not that I guess you're right. It's not that I don't care about the IP. It's that I
you don't care about how it's currently being used.
Yeah, the formulaic nature of every single one of their IP releases. Yes. I just have such a negative connotation now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
what about you, Cody?
So my answer is more mile wide, inch deep versus sort of going deep dive into every one of those. I took sort of a few of those IPs that you mentioned there at the top and just assigned a developer to them. And hopefully when you hear those developers, it'll sort of click as to the reasons why. I won't go super deep into those. So the first one's a little out there, but bear with me. Assassin's Creed done by FromSoft.
Pass.
Okay.
I think there could be something there.
You're probably right. A lot of people would be psyched about that. I'm not a FromSoft person.
Stealthing around, sneak attacks on enemies.
Yeah. Plays a little more like Sekiro.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Far Cry by Rockstar. Sort of those zany, over the top, crazy explosions, and
Okay. And they did the first person mode in GTA 5 that was really successful,
terrible.
So
totally, yeah, great for LARPing.
It's fine.
Watch Dogs, not a huge IP. But,
forgot that existed.
I forgot about it too.
CD Projekt Red.
Okay. Yeah, because Watch Dogs is like, it's a less edgy. Well, it's edgy in a different way. Hacker thing.
Totally.
So
Watch Dogs Legion was pretty. It was pretty edgy, bro.
Yeah, I'm saying like in a very different way than Cyberpunk.
You could like play as a grandma with a gun. That's
sweet.
like,
whoa.
It's pretty edgy.
They're not allowed to have those.
Yeah.
So I put Division, but this is really all encompassing Tom Clancy versus Bungie.
Mm-hmm. The live service-y style stuff. Yep.
Yeah. I could see them taking on Division.
Okay.
And lastly, this is the one I'd be most excited for. And Shea, I don't think you're going to like this one, but Splinter Cell, Kojima. Right?
You know what? You're right. Fuck my ideas.
I mean, it's right there.
Fuck my ideas.
Right there.
That's way better. I guess I wasn't even thinking about Kojima Productions as a studio that does things because Kojima's just off doing his own shit over there. I don't even think about them as like a studio that makes games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't even enter my brain when I think about what are the game studios making games today. That's not on the list in my brain.
It's an interesting point because his studio doesn't make games.
Dude. So many bad takes.
They make bullshit.
What, you're up here? Oh. What are you? Come on, man. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. So I think it's interesting. It's interesting to hear y'all's answers because Kyle went there's one IP I care about. Fuck everything else. Cody went more of
fuck everything else.
You kind of did.
No, I didn't.
And then I got you to backtrack. Cody took more of the let's separate all of the IP across different studios and publishers. My thought, which is more the spirit of what the question was, not that you guys did it wrong, but the way that I was thinking about it is if one big company is going to come in and purchase everything and they're in charge of all of it, who should it be? And it's probably the most obvious answer given the style of game they make. Embracer.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, Embracer.
No, it would be Sony. And that's primarily because they have a bunch of studios that are really good at making large single-player experiences in ways that don't feel homogenized. Because,
You're right.
Spider-Man's a big open-world game. Horizon's a big open-world game. Infamous Second Son's a big open-world game. Ghost of Tsushima's a big open-world game. But they don't feel like bullshit the same thing every time the way that Ubisoft does. And it's because each individual studio makes their own game versus every studio working together on every game.
Yeah.
So I think if any publisher was going to just outright buy all of the IP that Ubisoft has, I think Sony would be a good shepherd of it. And I also think that it would, for as scared as they are of a lot of the live service now, justifiably, the live service stuff that Ubisoft has would be like a nice add-on to what Sony's doing. Like existing IP that is a fit for live service versus trying to turn a bunch of single-player games into live services, a la Horizon and the God of War and Last of Us. Like, if Sony could just take over The Division and make a new one, take over Rainbow Six Siege and make a new one, that's a much easier play into that world.
Yeah.
That
being said, none
of that's going to happen.
I don't want Sony to own more studios. I don't want Microsoft to own more studios. I don't want any of that.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I also don't want Tencent or Embracer to own.
Right, yeah. No, I don't want any of those conglomerates. Well, I mean, here's, okay. So the only way some of those games get made is because of the pooling of resources and the investments from those large conglomerates. That's the only way some of those games get made. However, I don't think they should go away entirely, but it should not be the thing we look at, the North Star of creating a game studio, starting it from the ground up, making it successful, and then with the hopes of selling it and golden parachuting your way out. That's the American capitalist dream, right?
Yeah.
And that's it's so gross when it comes into it intersects with art is when it becomes super gross.
Yeah. I think that like the big AAA, quadruple A games publishers.
Dude, we're going to get into some quintuple A games today with those prices, buddy. Can't wait.
I think that those publishers have their place. I think it's okay for EA, Activision, Sony, like for those publishers to exist because of the kind of games they make. Right. I think to your point, what we don't want is that to be the only kind of game that we get in the AAA space. Like, I do feel like there's sort of a pushback or maybe a rise of the AA publishers.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I think it becomes difficult because we don't get AA priced games anymore, which is that used to be the thing, right? Like there used to be a lot of $40 to $50 games, and there's aren't as many of those today.
Space Marine 2 is a great example of like the exception that proves the rule, right? Like they are kind of the only one who's done that recently. Made like a cheaper, large budget game. Space Marine 2 was like $50, right?
Was Alan Wake 2 cheap?
Was it cheap?
No.
Alan Wake 2 was not.
I think
was Space Marine 2 cheaper?
Yeah, Space Marine
Helldivers 2 was, which is kind of in opposition to our point since Sony published that.
True.
But that's kind of a different thing. Again, it's the live service. Like that's their middle ground between full price and free to play.
Right. Space Marine 2 was $60. I guess I was just thinking they didn't go the 70 route.
Yeah, that's still cheaper-ish.
Yeah.
But my point is like a lot of the like a game like Atomfall is a perfect example of a AA style game that granted it's on Game Pass so we can all play it for free.
That's what that's turned into, I feel like, is the
Game
those
Pass.
go on Game Pass now instead of being a discounted game.
Yeah, that's not good though, because then it's just it's Microsoft that owns the keys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
South of Midnight, not to diminish any work, but like South of Midnight seems just sort of feels like another one that would be a $40 to $50
that is weird because it's published by Microsoft, but like that to me is lower than AA. Like that has more of an indie game feel to it, but it certainly is not.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like there are more AA style games being made, just typically at the premium price.
Is $40.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, to buy.
Oh,
so it is totally. It's priced in that zone, but then it's also on Game Pass.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, none of that will happen.
Nice quick question.
Will buy Ubisoft.
Super quick.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault we don't know how to shut up.
Yeah.
But we have a jam-packed episode as always. We're going to dive into our playlist, which is everything we've been playing, including our game select choice from last month, which was Assassin's Creed Shadows. We're also going to chat Split Fiction, Atomfall, a bunch of other stuff, some newer releases. And then we're going to get into our critical hits. We each brought sort of like a big topic or news story. And we'll also talk about the Nintendo Direct in that section, since that was sort of a lot of late-breaking big stuff to chat about. And then we're going to do our first inaugural update on our Fantasy Critic draft. So we did this back in January. We recorded our Fantasy Critic draft. You can go to the YouTube channel if you want to check that out. We published that back in March. And every month we're going to do an update on what our rosters are looking like, our games that we drafted and the scores that they're having on Open Critic, and kind of track that. You can follow along. And then we're going to dive into some side quests, aka emails. We got our first email to Party Select, which is exciting.
Yay.
And then we'll chat monthly game releases for April, and then reveal our game select for April for those that want to play along. And then we'll wrap it up with our content schedule for April, so the stuff you can expect to see from Party Select in the month of April. The best month there is, because it's my birthday month.
Me too.
Yeah, you're both. Yeah.
Oh, Cody, I didn't know your birthday was in April, dude.
Hell yeah. April birthday, buddy.
Yeah, 12
I'm old
and 22.
as shit. I realized a few days ago, as I was taking a dump, actually, I was thinking about it. I was like, oh yeah, my birthday's in a couple of weeks. I'm turning 37. Because I was like, I'm turning 36, I think, right? Yeah, like I'm 35. That's a nice, like, middle range age. Now I'm 36. Crazy. And I was like, nope, 37.
Yeah, I'm turning 33 in June.
You're closer to your midlife crisis than you are being able to drink. That's bad.
It certainly isn't good.
Yeah.
That's bad.
I found out one of my coworkers today is 20. They just turned 22. And I was like, what the fuck?
That's insane.
There's people that young?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
no.
But I was just...
There aren't
they were
people.
like,
There aren't people that age.
I thought they were like 26, 27. And then I realized, like, had you gone to the school that I taught at for 4 years, you could have been one of my students.
Right.
That feels bad.
Everyone I work with who like feels like they're around the same age as me, I assume they are 29. And I have always assumed they are 29. Like when I was 29, I also assumed they were 29. I'm now reaching an age where assuming someone is 29 means they're way younger than me.
Yeah.
That feels bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Let's dial back the clock and be children again and talk about video games. What do you guys
Hell
say?
yeah.
Frankly, we're talking about a video game series that we all were playing 30 years ago.
That's true.
When did Assassin's Creed come out? Like the first one was like 2006?
6? That would
Something
be my
like
guess.
that, yeah.
Let's talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows. So this is our game select game, which is for those that are new. This is a game that we all sign up to play and sink a big chunk of time into as sort of our premier main thing we're going to talk about on the podcast. Last month it was Avowed, and we spent like an hour just talking about Avowed, which was very fun. I have to come clean. I have played like 2 hours of Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm not proud of it, but I did get bronchitis. I did get bronchitis the day before Assassin's Creed Shadows came out. I had 102 to 103 fever for 5 days straight that whole weekend. I did not play video games. And then my mom is in town. She's been here for a week. She's here for like 10 days. And if you can hear it, I'm still super congested. We had literally record-breaking pollen in Georgia over the weekend. Like I'm not even making it up. It was the highest pollen count in Georgia's history since they've been tracking it. Crazy. And so my allergies are out of control. I have not been able to breathe for about 2.5 weeks. All of those excuses to say, I wish that I could contribute on Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I just can't, man. The tutorial, I think, sucks. That's my contribution to the Assassin's Creed Shadows conversation.
The tutorial being like the war at the beginning?
The first 2 hours. How it just gives you little vignettes and like little combat scenarios to like teach you how to stealth and teach you how to fight. I just think it's paced really poorly. There are cutscenes in between each section, a lot of time jumps, switches between the characters. And frankly, it's just too much. I want to get out in the open world and like let me play a video game. It just is taking too long.
The beginning is probably my favorite part because of the storytelling. Because I think the storytelling in the rest of the game, it's just storytelling in an open world game is bad. I just don't think there is a right way to do a story like this in an open world game. I think they do better than they've basically ever done at that. I think it's really, really good. I paid the most attention to this that I've ever paid to an Assassin's Creed game. I made it 20 hours in. I'm done playing. It's like the big central thing is you have to assassinate these 12 or 13 people, and I've assassinated like 7 of them. And I think I'm just done. I'm done. I was mostly mainlining and only doing the side stuff that was like helping me get the stuff to keep going. Because some of it is like it's not level gated, but it gives like a recommended level, and if you're too far below it, you are really going to struggle because it does the whole like numerical gear system and all that. But in terms of the storytelling, I think it's really solid. I think Naue and Black Man Yasuke, thank you. Naue and Yasuke. I find Naue very compelling. I think Yasuke, they do this weird thing where you play as him for a chunk in the beginning, and they're setting him up as this important character, teasing at a little bit of history here and there, and then they don't do anything with him hardly at all until, like, for me, like 14 hours in.
Oh, my God.
I was just like Naue for literally 14 hours. And then it was like, okay, now their paths have or have intersected for the first time. And now
you weren't
they're
doing
like
side stuff?
Not really. Not really.
Man, I got Yasuke. So different perspective there. I got Yasuke about 7.5 hours in.
Really?
But even that, I was like, man, like where the fuck is he?
That's a long time. Yeah.
I was not loving or like really into it those first 7 hours. It was fine. I was finding it hard to get back to it. But man, once Yasuke and Naue, you can, switch between them and the game like really opens up at that point. Right. I'm all in now. I'm very much more enjoying it. It felt like sort of your problem, Shea. I wanted to get out and just go do whatever I wanted. And I didn't really feel like I really could until that point. But I was doing some side stuff. In fact, I told my wife, who's going to be playing it, I was like, as soon as you can, like just do the story until you get Yasuke.
Right.
And then I feel like it really opens up from that point.
Okay.
So.
I mean, I guess I should say I wasn't not doing side stuff in the beginning. I just wasn't seeking it out actively, but I was doing the thing where like, oh, there's like a quest here. I guess I'll like follow it along a little bit until I get bored with it and then go do the thing. And then like, there's a lot of distractions on the way. And like, I felt like I was supposed to be trying to get all these fast travel points because I wanted to be efficient with my travel later in the game. So I wanted to like unlock all the eagle point things or whatever. So I was doing a lot of that stuff, which probably padded out my time quite a bit. I wasn't using the horse very much because I think it controls badly. So it was taking a while for me to get places. Because I would just do, shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And so I would just fucking go. And the horse is really only good if you're staying on the paths.
But can't you do the like auto path follow thing?
Not auto path follow. It can generate a path for you.
It'll generate like a Dead Space line for you to follow.
Weird. Like I feel like the past like 3 games all had just put me on the path to the place and then I can put my controller down.
But weirdly enough, it does have if you're following an NPC, you can hold
that
X and
awesome.
It'll auto follow them.
That is great.
Which is really nice. Yeah.
Yes. Fine. Like I forget what game I played recently that had that, and I was like, Assassin's Creed fucking needs this, and they put it in there. But yes, that's a great feature. That helps quite a bit. There are way less of the like hide and listen to this conversation thing. It's happened like twice. Maybe there's more of it in the side stuff, but like they're very sparing with that kind of thing. So a lot of like the annoyances they've kind of pulled back, which I appreciate. But yeah, like the whole gear item leveling and like the constant like just getting trash gear that isn't as good as the shit that you have. Like it's a lot of that.
That sucks.
It's not a ton of it, but it is way more than I would want. Like I like the old Assassin's Creed style where it's like you just kind of get upgrades as you proceed through the story. You get access to new gear. It's not just the same 6 slots of gear.
Yeah.
That are like different builds or whatever that you can do. It's just so uninteresting.
Just the little green arrows or red arrows.
Yeah, and I'm just like,
it's so tedious.
So Shea, I've been thinking to describe it to you since you haven't played much. It feels like in a lot of ways it's a totally different game, but it is in the same template as Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the stuff within that feel very different. But it is that still very much that kind of
Assassin's like you could see that it's running on the bones of it, right?
Yeah.
But then all of the systems have been tweaked and like modified slightly, but you can see the bones of it.
I really like that game. Like Origins and Odyssey both. I don't think they're incredible games. Like I wouldn't put them in my top 10 of a given year, but I had a ton of fun with both of them.
Yeah.
Valhalla just fell apart for me. And maybe it was because of the monotony of the world design and like the combat. It just like I don't know. I just didn't have fun with that one and totally fell off. So hearing that, I kind of have a mixed reaction to, because while I loved Origins and Odyssey, I got 200 plus hours out of both of those games combined, and maybe I'm just done with that. So I don't know about this. I will say what was interesting at least in the tutorial, as they're kind of teaching you the combat, is how different Yasuke and Naue feel in combat. And it seems like they're definitely setting Naue up to be much weaker in like straight up combat. Does that kind of carry through?
Yes. I've died many times.
Yes. Well, yeah, like a handful of times for sure. As Naue. The Yasuke, like when, and there will be like for story missions that are like, hey, assault this castle, basically, you typically have the choice to do it as Naue or do it as Yasuke. And Yasuke is great for those kind of instances. And it really just kind of depends on how you're feeling. Because like they both have their own skill trees, and you can like you can make Yasuke like primarily a ranged character. Like he has access to the Teppo, which is the gun, or like a longbow that's like super powerful, and you can spec in all that stuff. You can use like a Naginata, like the long spear with a sword blade on the end of it, like a Guan Yu style, or like just go like with a long sword, kind of samurai blade. So he has a bunch of different styles. Naue can use her samurai sword, or have a
it's got a real crazy name.
I forget. Well, so you could. All right. So there are a couple of different things. You can use just her regular blade. You can use her like short dagger blade. And like that's like super fast but low damage. But if you want to do like bleed accumulation or poison accumulation builds with that's good because you get more hits in and it procs more. Or you can do her like weird like scythe on a chain thing. Okay. I haven't really played around with that much.
It's fucking cool.
It seems pretty cool. But they play totally differently, and like those moments where you can choose the path, they're totally different kinds of experiences. Because Yasuke is like you literally sprint at doorways, and the doors just fucking crumble.
Fucking awesome.
And then you get that momentum, like you can run into dudes and send them sprawling, and then beat the shit out of them before they get up. Like Yasuke is a total powerhouse, and he can take a lot more hits and dish out a lot more punishment. And like they each also have like abilities, like if you hold R2 or whatever it is, and like you have your abilities mapped.
He has the like Spartan kick still, doesn't he? I thought
he has the kick, which is super helpful, and then he also has the like the fast draw. So he's like the blade sheathed, and then he'll do like a super rush forward fast draw attack thing that then makes the enemy vulnerable, and you can get more hits in and all that. It's like that's really fun to use. Naue's stuff tends to be a little more
gotta parry.
Defensive.
You gotta parry as Naue.
Naue's really good for parrying. I was super surprised at the combat because in like Odyssey in those games, and just in games in general, I don't like when I played Ghost of Tsushima, I did counters. That's how I beat the game. I countered every enemy. I just stood still and let them come to me, and I would counter every attack and do the one-hit kill counter.
And you didn't really change stances either, did you?
No, I never changed stances. Like that's not how I think about engaging with games. I don't think about like stance change stuff. And so it's not like stance changes, but it's like somewhat similar. I guess I found myself experimenting a little bit more than I typically would playing games. And I think it's because the combat was largely pretty fun. I think all the stuff around it, like the gear scores and the levels of the enemies, that stuff is not interesting in the way that it intersects in the combat to me. But I thought like the actual combat was super fun. I had a good time with it.
I really like how both characters play, like a lot. Yeah. And I really like that the game gives me the choice of sort of like, how do you want to approach this? Do you want to go in with Yasuke and just kill everyone in there?
Right.
Or, hey, I need to get that item in there. I could kill everyone to get there, or I could stealth through. And that feels fucking good to do as Naue. To sneak through, assassinating guys, climbing up buildings.
And stuff.
Yeah, like the crawling. It was new to this, and it both feel very good in their own way, and I really like playing as both of them.
The stealth tutorial mission as Naue was like the most fun I had that I've played thus far. And again, everything has been very guided, so I want to take that with a grain of salt. But that part of it was fun because it reminded me of some of my favorite moments in Ghost of Tsushima, where like you're stabbing dudes through the sliding doors and just like navigating that type of space, jumping it through the trees onto rooftops. It feels different than a lot of the recent Assassin's Creed games, which were a lot less focused on stealth and more just on open world exploration.
And this one, speaking of the stealth, this one has an option to, and I don't know when it was, I know it was in Odyssey, but I don't know when it was implemented, probably in Origins, where there's not guaranteed stealth kills anymore.
Right.
like because they have like armor or they have like health segments of their health bar where it might
always frustrating.
So now they have an option. You can turn that on to where if you assassinate someone, regardless of how much health they have, like that is a kill, and that's how it frankly kind of should be.
Yeah. It negates like some of the skill trees branches because a lot of those are like, hey, do an extra pip, but like I went ahead and turned that on for the beginning because also like I wouldn't want to waste skill points on that because how you get skill points is different. Like you're not getting XP and like you're not getting skill points from leveling. You get them from doing stuff. Like
you are. You're getting skill points from leveling. Points. But to unlock the next tier of skills, you need knowledge points.
The tiers, yes. So like I'm sorry. You're right, Cody. When you level up, you get skill points, but there are tiers of skill points, and you need certain numbers of knowledge points in order to unlock the next tier. So if you don't do enough of these side activities like shrines and other stuff to get the knowledge points, you could be accumulating skill points that you can't even spend anymore.
Got it.
So like that was a little frustrating. It felt like the game was kind of forcing me to do the side stuff more than I wanted to do. When it would have been nice just to be able to like pour a bunch of stuff into one play style. But I guess also that maybe contributed to me not sticking with a single play style, right? Because like none of them could be more powerful than any of the others, like to a significant degree. So I was more, so I don't know, like maybe it was smart. I just didn't like it.
For me, I didn't even notice it because I enjoy doing everything in a game like this. I enjoy seeing everything. And so like I don't
and experimenting with all the different types of builds and stuff. Yeah. I'm the same way.
And like I used to be. I think I'm old and tired.
It's like I remember this was years ago, but I remember Jeff Gerstmann complaining about this in a game. I don't even remember what game it was, but he like found the specific kind of exploit or like the specific kind of build or move that could just beat everything in a game. And he's like, yeah, I just did that the rest of the game and it wasn't fun. And I was like, that's such bullshit to complain about that. Because like, I understand the idea that there is, and it's not even optimal, but like there is a way to break the combat to trivialize it, that is a negative thing. In game testing and game development, they should be finding ways to force you to experiment and find the other things. But I also put like some of the onus on the player to, if you're playing a video game to have fun, you should be putting forth an effort to have fun. And if what you're doing isn't fun, you should do something else that is fun. And not saying, Kyle, that that's your mentality, but it just reminds me of that thing with Jeff Gerstmann, where like that was one of the early moments where I was like, oh, you're just an old curmudgeon asshole who I love and respect your opinions, but that was very annoying to me. And I remember talking to you about Ghost of Tsushima when like you were like, yeah, I didn't really do the stance changes. I just like parried everything. And I was like, but like, that's the point of the combat. You should force yourself to use the stances because that's what makes it fun.
But
it's really interesting to hear.
Really good to counter.
I get that. I do get that.
Fun for like a few hours. That's fun.
It's just interesting to hear that you did experiment in Assassin's Creed. And I think you're right. I think it's because there wasn't like one easiest way.
Right. And like the barrier to entry for the other styles was relatively low. Yeah. Because they're doing some fudging with the leveling stuff. Like you're never way over leveled to like drag the low level up, like trail to trail behind you for quests of a certain, like I had a quest that I unlocked at level 7 I didn't do till much later, and then it was like, oh, it's like level 14 even though I'm level 18. So there's a little bit of a minimum cap, so they let you have that power fantasy but not like way overpowered. Not like over
the top.
Like some missions scale with your level and some have that low bar.
And so like I felt like it was they did a good job from what I've played balancing all of that stuff, and that all kind of plays together really well. There's just too much of it for me.
Is that why you bounced off? You feel like you saw what it had.
20 hours of it.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm good. I had fun with it. I just don't need to keep going.
I want to discuss visuals and performance. Okay. So visually, I think this is. Granted, I'm currently in the middle of a playthrough of all the Assassin's Creed. I'm currently on 4, but I played everything up to 4. And I've played most of the things between 4 and Shadows, but it'll be nice to have a refresher. I think this is one of the best maps, I'll say, in an Assassin's Creed game. It is gorgeous. It's really, really freaking pretty. Like just walking down a street, there's a lot of movements, leaves falling, people walking, steam from shops.
Yeah. I was impressed by like the particle effect work compared to previous Assassin's Creed games. And like the
especially
density.
when you get up to sync, density for sure. When you get up to sync points and you have like just these huge vistas 360 around you, I think it all looks really nice. Now that sort of ties into the second point of performance. So I've started playing on my living room, and we have a big TV in there. I couldn't even tell you all the specs, but I know it does have HDR in there. And I have a high-end HDMI cable in there going to the PS5. When I boot it up, I got the performance or quality mode options, but then there was a balanced option. It's like 40 frames and not quite 1080, a little higher than 1080. I don't know what the actual resolution is. And I noticed there at the beginning, I think it's been mostly patched, but they're like in your little sort of like safe house zone. The frame rate when it started was really, really bad.
Oh yeah, like 15 frames, and I was on performance mode.
Really bad, which is weird because it's a very small, instanced area. I don't know why the frame rate is so bad there, but for the large part, I did not notice any frame limiting. And
outside of that, it runs great.
Yeah, runs really well. And I thought it looked very well too. So when I was in those first 8 hours, when I was struggling to get back to it, I thought, well, maybe I'll bring the PS5 into my office, hook it up to my monitor. And then because I'm in here all day, maybe I'll play it more because it's, more easily here. And boy, howdy, did it run like shit. It ran like ass, man. And then I went into the settings like, why is this running so bad now? Did it like update and mess things up? I went into settings, it was on quality mode, and God, the frame rate was just so bad for me. So bad. And then I switched it to performance, and I thought the resolution really tanked. Like some like bushes in the distance looked like those like 2D sprites that they just crossed to make it look 3D. Like that's how it looked. And then balance wasn't an option. And I had no idea.
Okay.
So because of the HDR and because of that HDMI cable, those were the things that were allowing me to hit balance. Otherwise, if I didn't have those, I would have no idea that's an option. It doesn't show it's like grayed out or anything, which is crazy. That's insane. For a consumer to not know that that's even an option being given to them.
I don't think I had balance as an option on mine, and I have an HDR TV.
Yeah.
So maybe I need a new HDMI cable.
Either. I played on performance. Because I saw it rather the frame rate. And like the game doesn't look awesome. It looks fine.
I agree with that. I think the art direction is solid. I think that to your point, Cody, on just like the open world looking so nice, a lot of that is because of the setting. Like, it's an extremely beautiful place with a lot of visual variety. I will say in response to that, Cody, like if you are really impressed by what Shadows is doing visually, bro, you got to play Ghost of Tsushima.
It is on my list. That'll probably be the next big game I play.
I can't believe you haven't played Ghost of Tsushima. to date, Ghost of Tsushima is the prettiest game I've ever played. It's not. Awesome. It's not particularly close.
Okay.
The particle effects it's fucking crazy. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4.
Y'all seen that doorknob in Metal Gear Solid 4?
Man, the old man wearing skin tight leather, gorgeous.
Oh, God.
Just crawling on the ground.
Another note I had is I like how violent this is. I feel like Assassin's Creed has never had this much blood before.
Very bloody, very violent. Yeah.
I like that.
I'll go into a cutscene and now is like head to toe blood splatter, like Dragon Age 2 style.
They had that in Odyssey for sure. Like there were lots of cutscenes where Cassandra had like blood spatter on her. It wasn't like Dragon Age level, or at least OG Dragon Age level of ridiculousness. But I wonder if that's partially, again, the setting and the style and leaning into the Japanese kind of culture around that, like old films and stuff being super violent.
Right.
And then the last note I have here, and I think they typically do this, but I especially appreciate it here. They seem to care a lot. They definitely did the research and took the time and probably got the right people in there. Like you have these little altars
made by a diverse group of backgrounds and races, religious beliefs.
Sounds like bullshit to me.
Yeah, a bunch of DEI.
Woke.
Woke. But like there's these little shrines you go to and you do praise and they give you little temporary buffs, but like there's a whole probably like
I didn't know those gave you buffs.
Yeah, well, gotta explore more, bro. It's probably like literally probably a 12-second animation that she does. Like it's like a whole pray thing that she does before you get the buff. Like I like that. Like that feels respectful.
You're supposed to do that
and yeah, they definitely do that. It's not just like you hit triangle and you immediately get it and you go on your way. Like it takes the time to do those things, and I really like that. I like the game. I really do. I like, sort of like you said, I don't know that it would necessarily make my top 10. We'll see how many other games come out this year that would be on there. Yeah. But I like it. Like I'm having a good time and I'm really enjoying it.
I'm excited to get back to it despite like the not great first impression that I've had with it. I want to fall in love with an Assassin's Creed game again. This is the type of aesthetic and like setting that I would be super into. I love the two different characters. I was enjoying the stealth as Naoe, which I've been missing from a lot of video games over the last several years. So yeah, like I'm super excited to get back to it. I will say, honestly, talking about it, and Cody, especially everything you're saying about it, just makes me want to play Ghost of Tsushima though. Like that, and that's like the worst thing I could possibly say is like all of the good things you're saying about what AC Shadows does. I don't know that it's not as good as Ghost of Tsushima. But I do know everything you are saying about Shadows, Ghost of Tsushima does super well.
Okay.
So it just makes me want to play that instead. And I've platinumed that game twice. Like I do not need to play that game again, but
I will say
pretty good.
I think the story in Shadows is more, I think the characters are more compelling than the characters in Tsushima. Because they feel like real people, not facsimiles of historical figures.
Well, I mean, and Yasuke literally was a real person, so
yeah. But like, because there's like Nobunaga's ambition. Oda Nobunaga, he's like this historical, like this legendary historical figure, and he's portrayed in like some different ways in Japanese fiction. And this version of him feels like a human being, not this mythical figure. And I feel like some of the Ghost of Tsushima, like they're less historically accurate. They're doing more of kind of their own universe of this history. And I maybe that's why it just feels a little more dramatized. Yes. Tsushima feels a little more dramatized, and this Shadows feels a little less like, a little more like prestige television.
Mm-hmm.
In that way.
More like Shogun, the show.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that.
Shadows feels a lot like Shogun, the show.
I can see that, and it doesn't make it a good or a bad, but that was definitely by intent with Ghost of Tsushima. They did want it to feel like a mythological kind of story.
Yeah, like the multiplayer plays into that, like all the demon stuff and all that too.
But I'm even like the side characters that you meet along the way, like they have a sense of, I mean, it's because of the style of the game. Like they're very much aping a lot of the old Japanese cinema with characters that felt like superheroes, right? Like you feels like you're assembling in a team of Avengers,
and it's very spiritual.
Totally. Yeah. Which, you know, you're allowed to connect with one of those more than the other. But I do think that the distinct approaches is with intent. And honestly, like that also makes me excited to play more Shadows because that makes it feel more different.
That's why I brought it up.
Like Ghost of Tsushima.
To help you differentiate it in your mind. Because
I do
think Shadows is good.
Yeah. It's hard to, or it could be hard to differentiate those games, and I'm sure it was tough for Ubisoft in making the game. Like, what do we learn from Tsushima versus what do we need to do to make it feel distinct? And I think that's a very nuanced way to build distinction, is the tone of your characters and of your story, making it feel more grounded. I think that's smart.
Kyle, what have you been thinking? So another option in the game is to play it in canonical mode or canon mode or whatever.
With the languages.
Well, no, that's a different mode. But you have like
just like the
you don't have dialogue choices.
That's how I'm playing it.
Do you ever feel like there's been a choice where you don't, where you're like, oh, that seemed out of nowhere, or like, have you disagreed with anything that
No, because I am playing the canonical mode, so Naue and Yasuke make their own choices.
Yeah,
like how the characters would make them, not how Kyle would make them. And that's all worked out. Like, I can definitely tell when they happen, because like I don't even get the menu pop-ups or anything. They just keep rolling like it's a scene. But I can kind of tell when it happens, because there's like a cut or whatever, and then like Naue makes like a strong statement about a thing. And I'm like, okay, there's probably a choice there. Where but like all of her decisions have made sense to me. And like it does pull me out of it a little bit when I realize one of those choices has passed me by, but it's not a huge deal.
Sure.
I don't know what it would add to my experience to be able to make those kinds of choices.
Sure. So the big differences are one, like you can romance in this. There are a number of characters. So if you do that way, you can't romance anyone just because it never chooses that option.
Okay.
So that's one, and then two, something that I've actually liked by having the choices when I'm in a conversation with someone and it's Naue and Yasuke there in the conversation, the other person will say something and then I get a choice of like, do I want Naue's answer or Yasuke's answer? And
cool.
Either one of them would say, and they're usually opposite sort of tones to their answer.
Right.
So you get that, which I mean ultimately doesn't change anything, but it's nice to have that option there, I guess.
That I think is cool, like picking between characters for your responses. I like that.
Yeah. That's
I mean, just as equally, Kyle, where like it might take you out to recognize, oh, there probably was a choice here. I feel like it takes me out when there is a choice, because there's that awkward pause where like, okay, they're going to have a pop-up here for me to choose something. So I feel like there's no way to avoid that entirely.
Yeah.
If you're going to have choices, that's going to happen, whether you take those away or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm certainly excited to play more. It sounds like even though, Kyle, you kind of reached your limit with it, you still had an enjoyable time.
Yeah, like I'm still positive on it.
And Cody, you committed to platinuming this one, yeah?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be platinumed.
Yeah. Best of luck with that. Yeah, I'm definitely I'll be focusing big time on that in April. Anything else on AC Shadows?
Last thing, based on the trophy, or bring up the trophies. Fucking Ubisoft, man. You have to be online for trophies to pop. You have to be connected to the internet, to Ubisoft's server, not even just the internet, to their servers when you do something for a trophy to pop. And if you do it and you're not connected, you just won't get that trophy.
That's bad.
So just a PSA to those who might be going after the trophies. Make a lot of saves.
We've done bad things.
Yes. It's
we made stuff game. Bad.
Terrible.
Yes, it is.
It is cool that the DLC is free. I got my like download code for the 2 DLCs that they're doing. That's nice. Ubisoft be a struggling, so they gotta give away their shit for free.
Yeah.
What do you say we move on and chit chat about some Split Fiction? Because all three of us have played at least a decent amount of that. Yeah. We're all of us are playing with our partners. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think all of our partners have very different exposure to games. Yeah. I know, Kyle, your partner is a gamer. They play a lot of different types of things. Cody, your partner is kind of in between. She plays some stuff, but not like as many things as probably we play. Mm-hmm. And then my wife does not play video games. She is hardcore into Stardew Valley on mobile now.
Yeah,
she has played like 100 hours of Stardew Valley over the past 3 months. She's played a little bit on Switch. I've been trying to get her to play on Switch so that she can learn the thumbsticks, but she hasn't played like hardly anything else. Mario Kart, and like she played fucking Gone Home and Minecraft on PS4. But we have been playing Split Fiction, and we're probably halfway through, but it's taken us like
There's
14
some tough
hours
segments
to get halfway through. We actually started It Takes Two first because I wanted to try that before buying Split Fiction, because that was on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, one of the two. And I was like, let's try It Takes Two and make sure that like you can do this. No judgment if you cannot, but let's try it first. And she was able to, we played for 2 hours-ish. She was able to get through it. And I was like, fuck it, we're doing it. Split Fiction. Split Fiction has a lot more gameplay than It Takes Two. At least in the early hours of It Takes Two.
Yeah.
Has Cody, has Tess, like, is she up on it? Like, is she able to get through it okay? Or does she struggle?
100%. Yep. So, like, she didn't really get into gaming. I mean, she had played some games with her brother when they were younger, but she didn't really get into gaming until, you know, we met and started dating. But I mean, she's played and beaten both Spider-Mans, both God of Wars,
okay.
God of Wars.
So she's played a lot more stuff than I thought.
Especially in 3D space. So like she's more comfortable with being dexterous, you know, in that way.
Kara did awesome. Kara killed it. Like they died a lot, which is fine. I died a lot too.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, there are a lot of sections of the game where like little little things you have to get past, obstacles in the game where you're not really going to know what to do until you give it a shot and fail, and then you go, oh right, I need to do this.
Yes.
So there's a lot of that stuff.
That was a learning for Kelly too, because like I feel like, I don't want to put this on her, but she said it, so it's okay for me to say it. Okay. She was very insecure about messing up or doing the wrong thing or not knowing what to do or dying. Yep. And it took us, like, the first time we played was not super fun because she was very uptight, and I was like trying to not display any frustration because I get it, but you know, like anyone that's ever done something new with someone who is very good at that thing, there's some like self-consciousness and insecurity about doing that thing. And so that first time we did not have that much fun. We weren't really chit-chatting. It was very focused. And so I like going to the next time was like, dude, we're going to get through this, however long it takes us to get through this. I don't care if you die 80 times during this combat thing. Like, embrace that. Let's have fun with that. And that like made her relax and get through it a lot more. Okay. But she definitely, like, projection's not the right word, but like it was very clear that she would get frustrated because she didn't know what to do at a bunch of points. And it's easier for us because I totally agree, Kyle. Like, there were many times where it puts you in a scenario and I don't know what to do either. Right. But I have the like inherent skill and experience to figure it out quickly.
Yeah, or like to know what to try to figure it out.
What to try. That's a great way of putting it. Like I know what to try. And she has no frame of reference for that. Right. So there was a lot of like, she's dead while I'm figuring out what to do. And then I'm like, oh, so we just do need to do this thing. And then we figure it out together. There was one boss, excuse me, there was one boss where you're on the motorcycles in the cyberpunk version, where you're like the big tank, the big walker tank thing
and stuff.
Yeah, and you're, you know, collecting little things and jumping over it and shooting at it. Yeah. She didn't do one pip of damage to the thing the whole time. Yeah, well, like, she was running away.
Because like the motorcycles don't handle great, I think, by design. And so like threading the needle to like avoid all the damage and stuff and like get up in the air, and then the combination of buttons and triggers you have to push to do the attack while you're like in the air. Like that's complex stuff. So.
And when you're in it, like, I mean, it's because it's cool that it shows both screens, even if you're playing not locally, it still shows you both so that you can kind of, a lot of the puzzle solving kind of requires you to screen watch for your partner's screen. Yeah. But in a lot of like the more intense moments, you're not really doing that because you're so focused on your thing. I didn't know the little mini game when you die because I wasn't dying because I was so locked in because she was dying so much that like I didn't want to let her down by like having to restart by dying. So it was a couple hours before I had died, and then the thing popped up and I was like, wait, what is this? And Kelly was like, oh, you need to do this. Because she knew what to do, so she was able to like teach me how to get out of that, which was fun.
That's great.
Like what have there been like standout moments or missions? I think Cody, did both you guys finish it? Have both of you finished it? Okay. Yeah. I know like the ending sequence people are saying is like an all-timer, so I don't want to get into that and spoil it. But like any other big moments that like were extra unique type of gameplay stuff that stands out for you guys?
At least for us, we made sure to do all the side stories.
Karen and I did those too.
To see all those. There are a couple of those that are pretty sweet.
Yeah.
The pig one was excellent. Yes.
Pig hot dog's very good.
Fantastic.
I won't get into it because I don't think you've gotten there, Shea, but there's one that's like hand drawn.
Oh, that is cool.
Freaking really cool.
That one was cool. Dentist.
Yeah. The dentist one was...
Dentist was unfortunate.
Yeah. For sure.
Did you guys catch... I don't know if you've been at that spot, Shea, but Cody, did you see the elephant from the first game?
Mm-hmm. Yep, the elephants in the game. There's
like
a lot of fun, video game references. Easter eggs, Assassin's Creed, Sergeant Johnson.
That one I caught.
Allusion to him.
And one of the
bonfire.
One of the side quest things was very Prince of Persia with the sands and all that kind of stuff that we're doing.
Metroid.
There's even maybe a Chained Together reference. I'm not sure if it was a direct lead to that, but
could be.
That's there. There's a lot of fun moments like that. Let's see. I actually have notes for this game, so I'm able to reference those. So one thing I really appreciated that I don't feel like I noticed it as much in It Takes Two. I like that whenever I was like traversing through the map and there was a platforming section that was chaining a bunch of different things together and it looked visually very cool. I would always worry, oh, well, am I getting the cool thing right now? And Tess isn't.
Right.
But, it always felt like we were both equally, or it would either flip or we both had a cool route to go to the next thing. It never felt like one person was getting a better experience over the other, which I really, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think there are definitely sections where one person has the more fun job compared to the other person, but I think the game does a really good job of flip-flopping that. It never feels like one person is always doing the cool thing.
Right.
Who'd you guys play as? What was your character?
I was the redhead stuffy one, and Kara was the dark-haired edgy one.
The cyberpunk chick.
I think that's Zoe. I was Zoe, the cyber.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm playing as Mio. I think her name is
Mio.
The sci-fi chick. And Kelly and I, when we looked at the characters, we were like, okay, one of them is constantly annoyed, and the other one is bright and cheery and maybe a little annoying. I think we know which one of us should be which character. It was a pretty natural fit. I've been super. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I've been super impressed by the style. I do think.
Yeah.
The bifurcation between sci-fi and fantasy, a lot of it is pretty on the nose in terms of the types of worlds that you are in. But I think all of them look really awesome and different. They're finding fun ways of making, because it could be really easy for sci-fi to all feel the same. And I think they've done a good job, at least up to where we are, of making each sci-fi section feel pretty different, which is impressive to me. I also think just generally the fidelity of the game, it looks really good. It looks really nice. Good color. That I've been pretty impressed by.
I was just gonna say both the main characters are intolerable.
I would 100%
I had a
agree.
bad time with the story of the game. Everything that came out of their mouths, I knew was going to come out of their mouths before they said it. It was all very predictable and kind of by the numbers stuff, and they were annoying in all the ways that I knew they were going to be annoying in, which made it more annoying. That stuff's it's just not good.
In playing the early hours of It Takes Two, I was pretty surprised by how cringy a lot of the writing was, given how highly lauded that game was. I mean, it won Game of the Year at Game Awards. I was pretty surprised by how bad the writing felt. I can't speak to that in its entirety because I didn't finish the game, but what I can say is that Split Fiction is markedly worse than what I saw of It Takes Two, and without hyperbole, Split Fiction is one of the worst written games I have ever played. The dialogue, and it is a funny thing to say, and listeners will be like, come on, bro. But I am not kidding. Split Fiction is one of the worst written games I have ever played. And part of the reason it is so poorly written, or comes across as so poorly written, is because of how up its own ass and pretentious and self-congratulatory a lot of the writing feels. Like, you can tell that Joseph Fares thought he crushed this in terms of the dialogue and the theming and the character progression. He feels really fucking good about how these characters and how he wrote this game. And boy howdy, please hire a writer for the next fucking game, because
that's the thing that kills me.
So bad.
They're both supposed to be writers, and they are both so wholly unoriginal and lame, and also like grammatically incorrect most of the time.
I mean, they are unpublished, to give them the benefit of the doubt. So maybe they're not that good.
Which begs the question, why would this billionaire dude, want to steal the unpublished people's ideas?
But even, like, take a step back. The premise of this game is that a mega corporation run by the most ham-fisted tech bro villain you've ever imagined.
Yeah.
Their plan is to bring in a bunch of unpublished writers, put them essentially in VR to extract all of their ideas so that the publisher can steal them and make their own books and make a bunch of money. The premise is that a book publisher created technology to steal ideas so they can make a bunch of money writing and selling new books. Hey, guess what?
Yeah.
Fucking books don't make a bunch of money.
But
it's an
VR
extremely
books,
niche industry. Like,
everyone knows there's big money in VR right now, dude.
It makes me feel like Joseph Fares's like wife loves reading or something. Because like, why didn't they make this but about video games? Because the references in this game are not about books. They're not referencing The Old Man and the Sea. They're referencing other video games. It doesn't make any sense.
I didn't think about that.
Nothing,
you're 100%
nothing
right.
about this game would need to change if they just
totally
made it.
Right.
These are people that want to make video games, and a big video game company brings them in and steals their video game ideas.
Totally
nothing
right.
about this game would change, and then it would make some goddamn sense.
You're 100% right. That's crazy. Cody,
Like,
would you like to weigh in?
No, see, it's hard for me because I just, and my barometer for that kind of stuff is just must be out of whack because I don't pick up on any.
I don't
of
think
that.
it's out of
You'll
whack.
get different stuff out of it. That's
It's
fine.
just it's not a it's not a priority.
I don't even think like, oh, this character's generic. They're annoying. Like that's just what they are.
Right.
I don't even like. It doesn't even cross my mind to even notice that. I just sort of take it as it is. And
I love
that being
for
said,
you and wish I was that way.
I did make a note, and it's actually sort of, again, antithetical to what you guys are saying. I did make a note that the machine is literally called the machine.
Yeah.
It's literally like no name. It's called the machine. I actually put down, I like that. I kind of like that.
I mean, in fairness,
that's not what it's about. Like, why does it need a fucking name?
The Book of Love from It Takes Two is called the Book of Love.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an anthropomorphized book that teaches you how to love each other, and his name's the Book of Love.
Yeah.
Deep.
And like again, like if maybe it was generic, but I kind of thought their stories were compelling.
Like the character stories?
Yeah.
What, like the ones that they had written that you're playing through? Or
No.
Like
their arcs, like the
journey?
character arcs throughout, like where they end up and how they got there, and like to the point where I got a little emotional. Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, like it impacted me.
That gives me some hope for maybe where it goes.
I don't know. Maybe it's overdone. Maybe it's trite. Maybe it's like whatever.
You're not dead inside. Like I am, so you can feel.
Don't put me into that camp. It's not because I'm like jaded or pretentious or whatever, but it's something that I care about.
But it's not
Cody,
why.
But that's not why. That's true. That's a better way of putting it. It's not why.
Yeah.
But it's just people. We talked about this in our episode 0. Like, this is part of the fun of this is we all expect and look for different things from a lot of different games.
Yeah.
And that's just not as much of a priority for you, Cody. What I will say is like the gameplay specifically. So fucking fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Like every 5 minutes, they're throwing a new idea at you, And they're not even
on top of that,
reusing
I feel
things.
like the mechanic, the way in which the variety in which they use the mechanics, man, they milk those things for everything that they can, and they do so many different things with each. Because every sort of world, every time you go to a different world, it's a new mechanic for that entire world, and the way that they're able to utilize that mechanic for so many different ways is really awesome.
Yeah.
And again, just to touch on the writing or the story and as a whole, I don't think it was like fantastic. It didn't blow me away. The gameplay far outshines everything about, everything else really. But yeah, no, it's a blast to play. And
the most positive thing I can say about the writing is that it's allowing Kelly and I to have fun with it. Like, because we're making fun of it as it goes because it's pretty cringy and the characters are pretty annoying. The most fun moment for me, which was the most crystallizing moment, where I was like, okay, Joseph Harris has no fucking clue what writing anything is about. There was a moment. These are two writers who want to be professional writers, and they were talking about their writing. And Zoe, or whatever the sort of chipper fantasy chick, was like calling Mio out on some dark story that happened. She's like, well, that must be based on something from your life. And Mio, and this is paraphrased, but Mio was like, do you really think writers put part of themselves in their novels? And I, as the player, I'm like, like that's writing art 101. Like, that's literally the foundation of any good story, is putting parts of yourself into it. You're a writer, bro. Like, you are trying to be a published writer, and you don't think that you should write what you know? What? And then I go back to like, hey, they're unpublished writers though, so they just suck. These people are stupid enough to come to a publisher with no promises and just enter something called The Machine to explore their ideas. So in fairness, maybe it was all on purpose. Maybe it's so poorly written and the characters are so stupid on purpose, because they are stupid. That's the only people that would fall for this shit.
Yeah.
So anecdotally, I did see a post. I think it was maybe Kyle Hilliard at MinMax who tweeted it. Maybe it was someone else. I don't remember. But they mentioned, like, I'm playing Split Fiction with my, I don't know, like 8 or 9 year old son.
Okay.
And they made a pretty astute observation. They look over to me and they ask, do these books not have characters in them? And it's like, man, that's a good point. There's just no one in these worlds.
Right.
And if these are supposed to, like, and that's sort of, to me, that's a weird thing about the writing, is like, they talk about that there are stories, like they sort of describe the narrative of the world that you're in, but you don't see that narrative sort of playing out as you're in the world.
That first big sci-fi one is maybe an exception, where like you end up against the boss and like the chick with the parking tickets or whatever the hell it was. That feels like there's like an actual story that's building. But the one immediately after that, in the fantasy world, where you're playing as like the monkey guy and the Groot tree, like there isn't really a story in that.
And to your point, Shay, those feel more like video games than they do books. So again, like the video game thing is really smart, of like, that would have worked a lot better if it was a video game publishing.
Yeah. All that to say, I do think it's really good. I am having a ton of fun with it.
I think aside, I don't want to commit to it just because I haven't beaten it. I intend to play more. Aside from Kingdom Come, this is my game of the year so far.
Yeah.
I Kingdom Come, once I beat it, and I can say definitively so, like that'll probably it. But, to be fair to...
And it's only April. It's the beginning of April. Sure. We got plenty of the year left.
I mean, so far, yes.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Granted, I have not played that many games thus far this year, but it would certainly be in my top 10, and probably will end up in my top 10, because I do think the gameplay is that good, and it feels very distinct and fresh from like moment to moment. And I respect the hell out of that. It would be better if the story was better. Like, it's fine that the story is not good, because that's not what I'm here for, but it would be a better video game if the characters were better written. Oh well. Maybe they'll make enough money that they can hire a writing team in the next one, although I kind of doubt it, because Joseph Ferris might be the cockiest person in the entire world.
Totally.
I like it.
Dude thinks he is the shit. All right, that's Split Fiction. Atomfall, another large release from this past month.
Yeah.
Kyle, you bounced off Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Uh-huh.
You played through Split Fiction and were like enjoyed, but maybe a little bit more lukewarm than Kyle and I, or Cody and I.
Yeah.
And instead, you decided to like play through the entirety of Atomfall in like a week.
Hey,
Be like
played
the whole
Kyle.
game
It was
in like a
in
week.
about 48 hours. Yeah. It only took.
Cody,
me-
have
it was
you
only
played
10 and a
played
half
Atomfall
hours.
yet?
No.
Okay.
That's not a me game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a me game either, but I do want to check it out. So I will be checking it out. But
It is like a quintessential Kyle trademarked video game. Atomfall's really fucking good. It's like sort of it is like a scoped in Fallout. Sort of like if now Obsidian were to make a Fallout game, how scoped in it would be and limited in some ways, but still kind of have that exploration DNA. It's kind of like that mixed with like a Metro game.
Yeah.
Because it's very much about not just exploration and like the mystery and the writing and stuff. The writing's very good. Voice acting also very good. It's also very much about resource collection and hoarding and going into combat scenarios like every bullet counts kind of a thing. It's not quite as frugal with that stuff as Metro is, I think, because Metro is a series of tunnels for the most part. The Metro Exodus had some open areas, but Metro is like extremely frugal with their resources. Atomfall, because there's more places to go, places to explore, you have access to more materials in general. And there are some ways to game the system a little bit to get extra stuff if you need to. But yeah, Atomfall, really fucking good. It's open zone. It takes place across like 4 or 5 zones that you can go to. There is no mini map. There's no. There are objective markers, but they're really. It's a game that expects you to read your quest log and pay attention to the dialogue that characters are saying to you and the conversations that you're having, seeking information out in a logical way, like who would know the thing about the thing that I'm trying to find information on. Go talk to that person, and 9 times out of 10 they have some info for you. So like it rewards that kind of critical thinking, which I think is really good. There is a map, and they will put like icons on the map to show with like a name, but like if you're tracking a quest, it's not like giving you an objective. You just have to like look at the quest and be like, I'm supposed to go to I'm gonna make up a name, the manor of whatever, like, and you go, okay, well
that's not really a made up name.
The manor of whatever. Yeah, you're right.
Is that what it was called?
You know what? This is some Split Fiction writing. The manor of whatever is in
the manor of house.
The manor of house is in the forest. So open the forest map and look around, and okay, there's rumors of a manor over here. So it's kind of like an area that I can search, and you go there and like find it, and then, but like there's never any kind of pinpoint like, oh, it's in the basement of the manor, and so I go to the manor, and now there's a thing on my screen that shows me the path to get down to the basement. It's like you got to look around and figure out how to navigate the environment and
I got a question on
gather
that.
information. Yeah.
So that actually reminded me of a point about Shadows that we didn't bring up. Is the objective system.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So when you're given a quest in Shadows, it sort of tells you, hey, like, go talk to this person, and then it gives you usually like 3 hints as to where they are. It's like they're in this region, they were spotted in this city, and then they're training at the training grounds in the city. But it doesn't give you a marker anywhere on the map. You have a couple options. You can spend a scout, which is a resource that refreshes on a timed cooldown, or you can follow those hints and you can go there and you can look for him, and you can find him if you follow the hints and then look around, and you can actually do it without needing to spend that resource.
Right.
I know you had mentioned, I think we were on a call or something where you didn't have a scout to do. Why does it frustrate you in that manner to not just follow those hints to go do the thing, but you can do something like this in Atomfall.
I think because it's so gamified in Assassin's Creed Shadows, like it's just like here's a way for me to get it really easy. Just spend a unit of whatever I have, like whatever the currency is. In this case, it's a scout. I just spend it and can search an area, find the thing, go there, do the thing. In Atomfall, there's no option for that. You have to like seek it out, and like in Shadows, it would be more interesting. It would be more of a pain in the ass because it's like a bazillion-hour game, and it would make it like a 2 bazillion-hour game if they did this. But it would be far more interesting if it's like, hey, the quest is in this area, like so-and-so, they give you the hints, and like you go there and like talk to people about it and like find out information that way. And like you could talk to NPCs. And that Shadows just isn't that flow of a game. Like that doesn't. So like the difference is Atomfall, it's rewarding critical thinking and not giving you an alternative, right?
Sure. So what's interesting is, and again, the point that I forgot to bring up about Shadows because I didn't make notes, but I've never used a scout for an objective.
Oh, I exclusively use scouts.
And I love the rewarding feeling of following the clues and then holding L2 to like scan around and finding my objective. Like that satisfies me to actually have followed the clues and not had to use a scout resource, because then I can use the scouts to get more material resources for my base and yada yada yada. That's what they're used for. But like I just don't do that, and that is something that I've actually found I like, is the feeling I have when I find the objective based on the. That's all to say, I get that feeling, and I was just wondering how that differed for you between these two games.
Yeah, and I think it's because Shadows has that alternative that makes it easy, so why wouldn't I do the easy thing? Whereas Atomfall does not, and so it forces me to engage with it on its terms, and it rewards me for doing so by making me feel accomplished for doing the thing.
Do you feel like that's a risky approach, though? Because if you didn't like that, you would just bounce off the game?
Yeah, but
for someone like me.
So what?
Right? Oh.
No, games don't have to be made for everybody. That's okay. I respect a game that sticks to its guns.
Huh. Okay.
And I think I always have. Games that are made for like accessibility wise too broadly.
Right.
I think it's great that more people can play it. I like that. My experience with a game like that tends to be worse because I just give in to the easiest, the path of least resistance.
The edges are sanded off, right? Like, yeah.
Atomfall has some rough edges for sure. You know, it's that AA tier game.
Yeah.
But again, like the writing is so good, the way that it ties into your exploration, your progression, and fairly quickly. I mean, so like it starts out with a big mystery, like several mysteries immediately that you want to find out more information about. But then also very quickly, you come into contact with like the various factions that are at play, and they all feel very differently about the situation that they're in and like their method of getting answers and what they think the answers might be to those mysteries. And you can just totally pick a lane, and like there's like 5 or 6 different endings, I think. And I got what I read, I believe, is like the canonical ending, which is I followed the voice that I heard in my head from the beginning of the game. And yeah, it was really fucking cool. It's really pretty. I think it looks really nice. They have some great art direction. They know what they're doing. It is very Fallout, like going into bunkers and like vaults, bunkers, and pouring through them, finding, you know, like aging technology that attacks you or is dangerous, or it makes it environmentally dangerous, and the ways in which the tools in which you have to address those things, either through skill points that you're getting, or through the meager supplies that you've gathered together, I think are really cool. Yeah, it's a game where you have a lot of choices, and the choices matter. Mm-hmm. And they're not just story choices, it's also how you're playing the game. It matters. How you play matters. And I think that's very true of the Metro games.
Right.
it's yeah, and it was just a really cool blending of those two types of games. And it was a very gratifying experience. And like I said, I beat it in like 10 and a half, 11 hours or something like that.
Okay.
I mostly stuck with the one story lane, but like I was doing quests for a bunch of different people and like a couple different factions, and then it became like, oh, so you have to go take care of this problem in some way, and then you have to try and leave. And those are kind of two separate things. You could go with a faction to like solve the problem and then do a totally different kind of thing with a different group of people as your exit plan. And so like there's kind of like two stages of choices there as well, which I thought was kind of neat. But like I said, I just stuck with the voice all the way through. Because I could have followed the voice to do its solution to the problem, and then like there's this lady who's like trying to figure out how to get all these radio towers working again, and I could follow that quest and like call in support to like airlift me out or whatever. But I followed the voice. The voice told me to go someplace to exit, and I went and did that. And I think that's the canonical ending. But yeah, I wish I had created a save at the like junction point, the final point, so I could go experiment with the different endings. I wasn't forward thinking enough there. But yeah, it's a good time. It feels very satisfying to wipe out a group of enemies, and then you get to like loot all their stuff, take it to a merchant, sell it. I think one of the big things people are frustrated with it about with the game is the inventory system. It's very limited. You get to carry 4 big items, and you have a small backpack of small item stuff that you can carry. And I think that frustrates people. But like, I mean, I cut my teeth on Oblivion, where I would kill everything and grab all of the loot in an Oblivion gate, bring it to the exact point where you had to intersect with the eye thing, and then pick it all up, and I couldn't move anymore, interact with the eye thing, teleport me out of the Oblivion gate, and it would close, and then I would drop as much stuff as I needed to move and fast travel, and then I would just fast travel back and forth. Pick up stuff, go sell it. Pick up stuff, go sell it. Like,
yes,
I'm used
Kyle,
to doing that.
But is
That's
that fun? Is that good?
It's kind of fun because it feels like you're gaming the system.
Maybe, but it's not fun by design. They're not trying to get you to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
But I also think that that's very different than what it sounds like Atomfall is aiming for, where it's more just it's limited to make you feel powerless.
Bodies disappear over time. It's not like they're not persistent, and like because areas will repopulate and stuff. So I tried to do that once, where I was like trying to make like 3 trips to sell everything, and it's also a barter system. There's no currency, so it's like you if I'm trading this person a bunch of stuff, I have to be taking stuff from them. So there's a little bit of management on like, do I really need 5 bandages? Can I do with 4? So it's not like I can just disappear all of this stuff and walk away with a bunch of currency to spend later and empty pockets, right? I'm going to have more stuff with me than I, and that's going to affect my ability to pick up more stuff. And so I was trying to do that, and the third time I went back to pick up more stuff, all the bodies were gone. So it was like, there's a timer on it. They're not letting you do what I did in Oblivion. So there are some restrictions there and stuff. But like I said, it's a game with rough edges, but I stand by the things I said about it first, which are the writing is incredible, the game looks great, and the combat, the resource management stuff, I find very fun and like if you like Metro, if you have liked Fallout, if you like the exploration of Fallout, if you like the resource management and intense combat of Metro, I think this game combines them in a very interesting new way, where those things intersect. So,
yeah, I think like the Metro comparison makes this seem far more appealing to me, because like hearing you talk about the systems in the game, and especially like the narrative and how that unfolds and sort of the open-ended nature of it, and sort of like the asynchronous nature of it, that tends to not be as much of a me thing. Like it makes me think of like Deathloop, and that was a game that I despised, and just really fell off of immediately because of its structure.
Yeah, it's not like
I also didn't like the combat in that game.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that maybe the combat, because it's much more like gritty in Atomfall, much more visceral feeling, there's more melee, that will help. But yeah, the Metro stuff I'm into because I love that series. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have like high confidence that it's a game that I will enjoy, but it's ambitious enough that I want to like give it a fair shake and at least check it out.
Yeah. And yeah, I think like right away, the voice acting and the writing was like very striking. You have like a very small amount of it in the beginning, and then you are kind of opened up. You can kind of go a couple different directions. I happened to go up the hill instead of down the hill, and up the hill it was a little more empty. I had to fight some dudes and it was really hard because I basically had nothing. But then I found an NPC that had like a really weird conversation with, where it's like, there's some very strange things happening. This person appears to be hearing a different voice than I'm hearing. That's very strange. And like, let's talk about that a little bit, but maybe not give too much away, because maybe they're crazy or maybe I'm crazy.
Right.
And then once I made my way down the hill, I got to like a little settlement with more people, and it like really opened up narratively then, because like you could choose to talk to everyone or you don't, and that's okay. But it's going to affect, like, you might get some nuggets of information that help you piece things together.
Sure.
By talking to folks. And I think that's a cool way to do it. You don't need it, but it helps you piece stuff together.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Well, awesome. We got a couple more things from our playlist that we can hit on quickly before we jump into critical hits. I want to mention Avowed. I mean, we like did a super hardcore deep dive last time. I don't think either of you went back to it after our conversation on the last podcast, right?
Sorry.
I did finish it. I don't know. I just like wanted to, I guess. I don't know why, because I felt like I got enough out of it. But there were two more zones after that third zone that Kyle and we were on. The fourth zone is equally as large, and then the fifth zone, somewhat of a spoiler, but probably expected, you go to the garden, which is the place that they've been setting up the entirety of the game. And that's much more linear, but it's still like several hours of gameplay. That game's it feels very long. Like, it feels way too long.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to do most of the stuff, which I did. Because it was an easy thing to just do everything in, because it's kind of mindless. It does.
The way it paces the upgrade system and all the levels and stuff, it wants you to do everything.
Yeah, and I mean, I got to like the 5th tier or 4th tier, whatever it was, of all the weapons. No, yeah, it's 5 tiers, because you get to the pink tier, and then after that, there's gold tier. And so I got to like all the unique gold tier stuff.
I was burnt out at the beginning of the second zone. I cannot imagine 4 more of them.
Yeah, I think like the two big things that kind of pushed me through. One was, I always want a mindless game that I can just turn off my brain and play. I'm hoping Assassin's Creed Shadows becomes that for me. And 2, there was enough of the story thread, and especially some of the side quests, that pulled me through. A lot of the side quests in the late game, I think, are really good. In the 4th zone, you get to go to like the Dwarven home base. I don't remember the name of it, but you meet some interesting characters there. There's a bunch of drama happening with 2 warring factions of they want different things. You kind of have to take a side. And I think the biggest thing that I'll say about the end, like the end chunks of the game, is they do a much better job leaning into the gray of your often binary decisions that you're making throughout the game. I was not compelled by the voice in the beginning of the game. When you find out what the voice is all about, I was like, I don't really care about any of this. I'm ignoring everything I can do with the voice. I don't want to be fighting Ludwig because she's a stupid, boring character. But towards the end of the game, it really, like, it was hard to make a lot of decisions because I didn't know how it would play out. I felt conflicted about the 2 options. It's a lot of stuff where, like, it's 2 bad options, and you got to pick between one of the bad options. And that, I thought, was really, really well handled. The actual ending of the game is extremely abrupt. and kind of unsatisfying in like the final boss battle that you have.
Outer Worlds was that way too.
You beat the character and then it just like immediately fades to black, and then it does much like what Outer Worlds does. If it's like, here's a snapshot of the character and we're gonna 80s movie tell you what they did next.
Yeah.
And like which is exactly what Outer Worlds did, and that's very unsatisfying.
People don't like that. I don't know why they did it again.
Like they ran out of time or money. I don't know what the deal is. But the biggest reason I wanted to mention it is because a lot of my criticisms of the game around the story, I thought they made good on towards the end of the game. Not everything is amazing and not everything sticks the landing, but a lot of that gray I thought was really, really well done. In the garden area, there are some optional little side areas where you get to like reconnect with your companions about their personal story. They do sort of like a wrap up where they revisit sort of whatever they experienced and the choices they made. You get to talk about that, and that I thought was really cool to sort of bring that stuff full circle after spending all the time with them.
Okay.
So yeah, not a game that I would recommend sinking 40 hours into, but it ended up being worth it for me because it kind of brought me around a little bit on it. I still think it's very much like a 7 out of 10 kind of game, but I liked where the story went much more than I expected.
Okay.
Cool. Kyle, you played some DLC for Rise of the Golden Idol.
Yes, Cody and I played that together. We played the base game together. So we actually played the Sins of New Wells DLC for Rise of the Golden Idol. This picks up after the events of the main game. And it's just more of that, and it's very good. And like
it reminds
very
me
different kinds of puzzles.
Curse of the Golden Idol, Rise of the Golden Idol are not connected in terms of story, or they are? Okay. So Rise of the Golden Idol is a direct sequel to Curse.
There's a very big time jump. So
like
Curse of the Golden Idol jumps around in time quite a bit, but it's sort of like colonial times, maybe slightly after, like approaching Industrial Revolution, and also like way far in the past with the inception of the Golden Idol, and it's how it like the mythos behind it, and like the ancient, it'd be like Mesopotamian, but it's like a different, it's a made up thing. And that's Case of the Golden Idol. Then Rise of the Golden Idol is more like alternate history, modern day, and plays around a little bit in that space. And then the DLC,
the same world.
But same world / universe, whatever. And then the DLC is just more of that, but just slightly after the events.
Got it.
And so there are some really smart tie-ins with some of the mysteries that were in the base game that are like just really subtle references or hints. And again, like by the end, the way that it all wraps around makes a very clear connection to the base game, and was like, because we're like several months removed from the base, having played the base game now, we were like, was this that, and was that? And so it's cool to be able to like back out and jump into the base game and like look at that stuff again and be like, oh yeah, that was that thing in that scene. Like I thought I recognized that character, like blah, blah, blah. And so there's a lot of fun stuff that you get to do like that. That's part of solving those puzzles and those mysteries. And I think it did a better job even than the base game of giving you the information you needed. There was like one instance where, Cody, you and I got stuck on a thing, but there were multiple instances where it was like we looked at everything, you and I kind of talked it out, and then we brought up the thing to like place all the words to fill in the blanks, and we like did boom with this, and this group wanted to talk to this group and this group, and then boom, and then yep, 100% first try. And it's like that's perfect. Because we're making a lot of inferences, but it's inferences based on all the information they've given us, and we have our heads wrapped around it, and that feels really good when we're able to do that together.
It's not because they're making it too easy; it's just because the game's done a good job of making you comfortable with how it works in order to suss that stuff out.
Right. Again, feeling very accomplished by and rewarded by thinking critically.
Always good when a game makes you feel smart.
Is this the first post-game DLC you played just in general?
Oh.
No, I'm like, when's the last time you played some DLC for
Alan
a game?
Wake.
Okay, fair. I guess that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't often. I mean, like, if if I can only handle 20 hours of Assassin's Creed Shadows, I'm not going to be playing the DLC. I'm just that way with a lot of games. I don't finish very many games.
It's insane to me that Outlaws still has more DLC to come out. Like, that's crazy. I'm so far removed from that game.
Yikes.
I did play the first DLC of that, which, you know, it was fine. But to think that there is more content for that game, like, I'm going to have to relearn how to fucking play that game by the time that comes out.
I have way too many games on my list. Even you bringing that game up overwhelms me because I have that game sitting on my shelf as a sidebar. Again, it's my birthday in a couple of weeks. My mom's visiting. She went ahead and gave me my gift. She got me Legends of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom and Dragon's Dogma 2. When? How? When?
Yeah.
I want to, but when?
Yep.
Anyway, too many games.
Not to put us on a tangent, but that was the first DLC of multiple, right? They're going to release a few more.
Yeah,
DLCs
there'll be a couple more. I think a couple more this year.
That's cool.
Nice.
To finish it out. Yeah.
Did you say
it
like
was
how?
It was probably 2 hours.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, like 2.5. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good chunk of time.
Yeah, a perfect kind of length to, because by the end of it, we're like, "Ooh, okay, we're good." But yeah, it was awesome stuff. They're good at what they do.
That's cool. I have the first game on Steam Family Sharing.
Yes,
because Kyle's my brother.
That's right.
And
the second one should be on there too.
Yes, it is. But I wanted to play the first one first, is why I mentioned.
I think it's also on Game Pass. So folks have Game Pass. They should check them out.
Interesting. Yeah.
I imagine touchscreen controls on the Steam Deck are probably also.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would be better to play on Steam Deck or on Xbox. Probably Steam Deck then.
Probably.
Because I installed it immediately when I saw it. And every time I open up my Steam Deck to play 5 minutes of Pokemon Emerald, I see it sitting there. And I'm like, I should go ahead and open that.
Yeah.
And I don't. It is what it is. Well, last episode, we were talking about Steam Next Fest stuff. And one of the big discussions we had was around Wanderstop, because we had played, Cody and I had played the demo and had a long discussion of like, what the fuck's this game going to be? Is it just a cozy game? Is there something secret hidden here that Davey Redden is trying to hoodwink us into thinking it's something it's not?
Right.
Then the game came out, reviews hit, and largely people were like, no, dude, it's just like a cozy game, but it's a really good one of those. And then unfortunately that news led Kyle and I to be like, nah, no thank you. But Cody, you played some of it.
Yeah, and I want to play more. Just other things have come out that have pulled my attention away. I fully intend to go back. I've played, I don't know, a handful of hours. I've played 2.5 hours so far, so not a ton, but enough. I mean, not enough, obviously not enough, but enough to be able to speak in some capacity on it. It is just, so far, it is just sort of a cozy game where you make tea.
Yeah.
And with that, I do like, so like you have different adventurers come into this gale where the tea shop is, and they'll have quests and they'll require tea, and you'll have conversation with them. I like that there's no time for anything. As soon as an adventurer comes in and like he has like a quest marker above his head, he never goes away. Like you can go and collect tea resources, you can prepare everything, get his quests, and then you have as long as you want to do that quest. It's not time to even make the thing. It's very relaxing in that way of like, there's no stress. You're no rush to do anything. You can mess up. In fact, I gave someone the wrong tea order and he's like, this actually isn't what I wanted. And then he like asks you to do it again. And it's like, there's no fail state. Like that's all really nice and comforting, of course.
He didn't like call the cops on you for giving him the wrong order, and
no,
there are no Karens in Wanderstop.
No. In fact, I actually a note I do have is that I really like the characters. Boro, who's in the demo, I mean, he's great.
Boro's great.
He's
a good early contender for our best characters discussion at the end of the year.
He continues to be very, very good. There's Gerald the Knight, and he has like a cursed leg that he got while adventuring out in this forest. He wears a bunch of like mismatched armor pieces, and his whole thing is he's trying to be cool for his son. He wants his son to like idolize him and think he's this cool adventurer, and he's out like wounding himself and getting cursed and everything just to impress his son. He shows you a bunch of photos of his kid and he gives you one and you can hang it up in the tea shop. Then there's
Weird
also
to give someone a photo of your child.
Well, those uber proud parents. I will say I wanted one when he was showing them to me. So
I don't know what that says about you. I don't like
you want
that.
to picture someone else's kid?
I don't. I'm going to cut this out of the episode.
No, come on. So like he's a character, so he will like come and ask for his tea. He'll go out, and then some time passes. You do other things, and he'll come back and have a different story and one more tea, etc. The only other character I've met so far, aside from those two, is a demon hunter, who his shtick is that he's slain all the demons. So now he's turned to community service and helping everyone around this place. And I've had a couple fun interactions with him. But ultimately, like, it's just you go out into the garden, you pick the materials that are needed for the tea that they want. So sometimes they'll want a tea that gives them energy, or sometimes they'll like that's healing or something. So like you have a journal with all the different plants that teach you about their properties. So you need to make the tea with those specific plants. So they won't exactly say, I want tea with this thing, or this thing. They'll tell you what they want to get out of the tea. And then you got to do your research to brew the right tea. And that's just sort of been all it is so far. I will say, well, I don't think there's a. What's that?
Are you picking like where to plant the tea leaves and stuff, or is it?
Yes.
It's just kind of like growing. Yes. Okay.
So tea leaves themselves generate in the glade that you're in. You'll go out and pick up some tea leaves, and by the time you go out to need more, that some have regrown all over the place. But the actual plants that go into the tea, those you can like set up a farm and pick where those grow and whatnot. While I don't think this has a Stanley Parable level twist,
right,
there definitely is something ominous going on. I do consistently feel a sense of unease when like the major story dialogues or conversation or points happen. There is something like something's not right here, but I don't think it's to the level of a Stanley Parable sort of twist. So that is what is drawing me and making me want to eventually come back to it. I do want to know where that story goes. But yeah, it's a pretty all right time if you're into that kind of game.
Yeah, Kara's been playing it and they've been enjoying it as well. They said it's a lot about like burnout and stuff.
Sure.
As kind of like a major theme. So I wonder if some of that ominous stuff is like the way that is manifesting because she was a warrior or whatever.
A fighter,
sorry. Yeah.
Is there a difference?
In this game there is, because they're very specific about calling the character a fighter.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely recommend that if you're into that kind of game.
So. Okay.
I ain't got time to relax and play a video game. You know what I mean?
Hey,
like I have way too much pressure on myself to play video games.
I've got to be making hard decisions about what to put in my backpack in Atomfall.
Right. I need to be enjoying a game less because I'm focused so much on, am I maximizing my time right now? Am I having the maximum amount of fun, or should I go play something else that might be more fun?
Yeah.
You need to get burned out before you can learn a lesson from a game about burnout.
That's
Dude,
right.
You nailed it. That's what this is all about. I need to burn myself out so that I can go enjoy Wanderstop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There you go. All right. Last game on the playlist, R.E.P.O.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cody, my partner Kara, and I played some R.E.P.O. together. That was
it's
a streamer bait game. It's one of those like
aren't they all?
Lethal Company.
Yeah, Lethal Company-esque sort of game. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those where the shtick in this one is you all play as these like goofy looking little robots with big googly eyes and like flappy dome head mouths that can like compress into tiny versions of yourself and hide. But like the main core mechanic is you're going into these haunted places, these like really fucked up places, and trying to find valuables, put them in a cart, and get the cart back to like an extraction place. You have to get a certain amount of money, at the extraction place in order to earn your ticket to like leave before your ship will leave. And like every place is super haunted and there's some really fucked up enemies. And the method of picking up the stuff is like, it's sort of like a gravity gun, but it's very loose, and kind of like floaty. Almost like a magnetic field, like loose and floaty, picking up these objects, and they have different weight and mass and stuff, and so and
if you bump them into things, their value diminishes.
Yeah, it's like if it's like a nice diamond or a crystal thing, and you bump it, it'll just break outright. There's other stuff like a painting, you're like bumping it. Every time you bump into something, you see like the little minus $25 thing, and like fuck. And it has the proximity chat thing where you can hear people, and they sound like they're coming from the other room or whatever.
Proximity chat is the greatest thing.
You're hearing people scream from creepy shit in the other room, or like hearing people go god damn it when they're bumping into stuff. You see the little minus pop through the wall, they bumped into something. It's a lot of funny stuff. And then one of the other things the game has is there are a couple different mechanics. Like some of the enemies operate on different mechanics. Some of them are like sound based, so like if you're talking, they'll locate you and find you and like take you out. So you can do text to speech instead, where you type it and then your character talk like this, like this. It's like the weirdest little robotic like inhale talking sound. Very strange, very funny. It's very funny. But you can do that and not get heard. Right. It's like there's like a blind guy with a shotgun who uses a shotgun as a walker, and if he hears you, he'll like shoot wherever he heard. And so like there's instances where like I'm hiding under a table and the blind guy's like walking by, and like Cody and Kara are in another room. They don't know he's coming, but I can't shout to like warn them. So I do the text to speech thing, and so Cody and Kara will just hear from the other room, "Fucking blind guy, what out?" like whatever it is, or like "suck my dick with your shotgun," like something stupid like that. They're doing a lot of fun, smart things. And it has the whole setup where you extract with money, then in between runs, you go to a shop and can buy some upgrades like stamina or extra equipment or like a hand grenade, which went poorly for me trying to use it the first time.
If I had to say something that it definitely needs or that I would like to see is those upgrades. So like in a game like this, you're almost expected to fail. That's sort of the point, is like you're not meant to make long-term progress in a game like this. But at the same time, when you have a game like that and you have upgrades, those upgrades feel worthless.
Yeah.
Because I'm just die. What if I spend all this money to upgrade my stamina and then I die in the next thing, and then guys, let's start all over, and then what was the point of that? So some meta like persistent upgrades, some meta progression, some sort of persistent, even if it's just within the play session. Like every time I boot the game, it starts fresh, but for the time that I'm playing it, I'm increasing my character. I
think skins
something
would be
in
fun.
that way,
something like that, or like the longer you play, like the different kinds of upgrades you will find in the shop based upon your like overall rank or whatever, I think would be cool. Something like that would be nice. That acknowledges how long you've been playing, not just like a skill thing.
But ultimately, it is a game that's just meant to be like, hey, like Friday night, we're with the friends, let's just play this dumb thing and laugh. And
honestly, like I don't know why anyone makes games that aren't like this, because these games just pop off like crazy. I pulled up the Steam page just for fun. This game has 75,000 Steam reviews.
Yes.
Atomfall has 1,300.
Yes.
Wanderstop has like 1,100. Like, why make a game that isn't a multiplayer hijinks game?
And they all look like shit. It's not like they're even.
They are not expensive to make nor hard to make, because most of them are pretty similar in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's the future of indie games, man.
But yeah, that's R.E.P.O.
It's just as bleak.
If you're looking for something to play with your friends, it's a cheap, fun option. Yeah. It's on PC.
The cheap, dumb fun of the month, I feel like could be a recurring segment.
Totally.
Because all of these are going to be pretty similar type of thing.
Very much so, yes.
And I don't mean that even in a negative way. It's just like these are the types of games that are always so popular, and it makes sense why.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is the end of our playlist. Let's move on to critical hits. Before we dive into our individual ones, we wanted to chat about the Nintendo Direct from, by the time you're listening to us, from last week. We should not spend a ton of time on this, just given the amount of time that we've already spent on this podcast.
That's fair.
If y'all want to go listen/watch us live react to the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, you can do that at the YouTube channel for Party Select. Link in the description of this podcast or of this episode if you're watching on YouTube. Definitely go do that. You'll get kind of our raw reactions to everything they showed at the Direct. What they didn't show at the Direct was like pricing, a lot of the game stuff, how it works, a lot of like the nitty gritty back end stuff, which I would say largely we were underwhelmed, to put it positively, by the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
Everything that has come out since that Nintendo Direct has been worse than our reaction to the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, I feel like you've been leading a lot of the discussion, at least in Discord, about all of this stuff. Do you want to like bring us into it and we can chat about it for a bit?
Yeah, so I've been watching like a lot of coverage and reading a lot of articles and stuff about it. I think Cody, you have too, so you can help me with this a little bit as well. But all right, let's talk about the Switch 2, kind of an overview, what it is, what they showed, what they've talked about since. It's a Switch 1 that's slightly larger and just as thick, the same thickness.
The same thickness.
Yeah, it's got those magnetic attachable controller things that apparently someone in charge didn't want. But I guess the engineers wanted to do it on the Switch 1, and the person in like the director or whoever said, no, we're not doing that. That sounds like a bad idea. And I guess they finally convinced him to do it on the Switch 2. I still think it's kind of a bad idea, the magnet thing. But there have been people with some hands-on stuff, like in New York. They did an event in New York where people could get hands-on and Switch 2. They said it feels fine. Like a pretty good positive grab on the magnet stuff. Like you need to go bottom first in, I guess, is the deal. You can't just pop them in. So there's like a little bit of a trick to it, which sounds like a bad thing. To have a thing you're doing a lot have a trick to it. The UI is the exact same as the Switch 1 UI, the menu stuff. It's all basically the same, slightly rounded edges is kind of the takeaway. I guess the eShop performs well finally, because the eShop ran like butt on the Switch 1. And then there's all this bad stuff around it. It's okay. There's a lot of stuff to get into. So
it's $450.
It's $450, which is the high version of what we thought it might cost.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be $450 with Mario Kart. It is $450 without Mario Kart. It is $500 with Mario Kart. Cody, do you still have those prices for the games
I can get them pulled up.
Yeah.
Because the prices for the games are insane. Not just
all
expensive.
Over the map.
So a lot of these games are $80 now.
Yes.
Congrats.
$80.
It's amazing living in America in modern times. Everything is horrible. And your video games cost $80 now.
Yeah.
Not all of them, though.
Announcement. As a part of the announcement, they announced a few Switch 1 games that have some
upgrades,
sort of new features.
Yeah, like either like improved performance, but also like some of them will just perform better. Some of them will perform better and have additional content.
Correct. So that being said, at least for physical games at launch, we have Donkey Kong Bonanza at $69.99 or $70. I'll just say $70. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is a Switch 1 game, but this is the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, plus Star-Crossed World, which is some new content that they've added to it, which is $80. You have Street Fighter 6, the year 1 and 2 Fighters edition for $60. So right, the first 3 games, all different prices.
Totally different.
And we'll note the Kirby game is a game that's been out for years and just has an expansion. And it's $80.
$80.
Yeah.
You have the flagship title, Mario Kart World, which is $80. You have the Switch to enhanced version of Breath of the Wild, which is $70. You have the Switch 2 edition of Jamboree, which includes Jamboree TV, for $80. You have the Switch 2 version of Tears of the Kingdom for $80. And then at the low end, we have Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster for $40.
Which, that was a 3DS game, so it makes sense that it's not a premium priced game. But also, like, if you have the Nintendo Switch 1 version of Tears of the Kingdom, you can purchase an upgrade to the Nintendo Switch 2 version, right? You don't have to just buy it.
Same thing with Breath of the Wild as well. Yes.
Yeah. All of this to say, the pricing is extremely inconsistent and confusing. And
there's no reason for it, or no clear reason for the variance.
Pretty fucking standard for Nintendo.
Sure.
Obfuscated, bad. Terrible pricing.
Yeah. So there's that stuff. Then there is this piecemealing of things that in the past they would have included with the console that they're now charging you extra for, selling separately. So there's this whole webcam integration functionality thing, which is
PS iToy from like 2004.
Yeah, but they have said any USB-C webcam will work. Well, most USB-C webcams will work. There's a compatibility layer that you can test it when you get the system to see if it'll work or not. They are selling their own Nintendo one. There it is on camera for the folks watching the video. The company Hori is making a Piranha Plant one, which is a lot of fun, which is actually like $10 cheaper than the official Nintendo one, because prices don't matter. It's crazy. So like, instead of building the camera into the system, they're selling it as a peripheral, which means not a lot of games are going to support it. Nintendo first-party stuff will have integrations, but it won't be critical because they have to make games where people won't have access to it. So those integrations are going to be gimmicky and bad and not fleshed out. I don't know that for sure. I'm just making a call based on experience.
Well, based on every single other peripheral in the entire history of video games.
Correct.
I've seen a lot of fun reactions to so one of the features with that camera is the rumored C button. What that meant, this means for chat, video chat, screen sharing, and all that jazz. I've seen a lot of fun reactions to be like watching my friend play Smash at 3 frames per second, and it's like a GIF, like barely moving.
And that's the crazy thing is it's just a Discord layout. But everything runs at roughly 8 to 10 frames a second. It's fucking crazy. It is crazy. And
on top of that, you have to have Nintendo Switch Online.
Yes.
Therefore, if you don't have that button, subscription, that button does nothing. Do anything.
It's a button that you have to pay to be able to use.
Yeah. It's straight up.
Feels
I hadn't thought about
fucking bad, dude.
That's pretty bad.
So that's not good. There's also the controller, the Switch Joy-Con, I forget what they called it, but for the Switch 1, it came with the console. It was like a little mini controller that you put the Joy-Cons on.
Joy-Con grip.
The Joy-Con grip thing. That came with the Switch 1. It's $35 for the Switch 2, sold separately. Does not come with the console.
I did not know that either.
The thing there, I did think about that. It is a little different.
There's added functionality. So it has the 2 grip buttons that the new Pro controller has, and it can take USB-C charging in, so it can be charging your Joy-Cons while you're using it.
So I wonder if
it has
that's
a headphone
specific
jack too, right?
The Pro controller does. I know
the Pro controller does. Okay.
I don't know.
I do wonder if that's a different SKU and one that can't charge comes with it, because that seems crazy. That seems crazy to not include that grip.
The full list of official accessories are on the Nintendo website, and one of those is
there's
not
no
on
way
there.
It doesn't, because the box has that grip on it. The console box has the grip on it.
You're
there's
right, it
no
does.
way that does not come
on the
box.
Nintendo website. It says it does not come with the console.
Right, the charging one I bet doesn't. That's what I'm saying. A non-charging version I bet ships with.
I feel like that would be listed on their website of official accessories if it existed.
if I swear
that you're right.
I swear to
I'm with
God.
Cody.
That would be
insane to have it on the box of the console you buy and
That
for
would
it to
be
not
fucked
be
up.
in the box. Yeah, I have to think that Cody is right, that there is a standard version and a charging version. And
Though that being said, Kyle, you're right that there is no SKU listed to buy separately, the non-charging version of that grip.
Yeah. Everything else is purchasable separately. Like you can get an extra dock, like the webcam, like I mentioned. There are what actually look like really nice, for $20 you get 2 of them, really nice wheel attachments for the Joy-Cons to go into for playing racing games like Mario Kart. They have the extra triggers on the back that like make it feel a little bit better to hold as a controller. So the Switch 1 had those. These people who got hands on them said they feel much better than the Switch 1 ones. Don't feel as cheap. And they just like they have better hand feel. And those are only $20 for 2, so that's like a reasonably priced accessory. And then the pack-in games that you would normally get with a Nintendo console. I mean, 1-2 Switch was sold separately, so like they did it for the Switch 1, but previous Nintendo consoles had pack-ins. It's this what, Cody, do you remember what it's called? It's basically a tech demo that shows you how the different pieces of the Nintendo Switch 2 work. Like it talks about how the magnets work.
You
and then
on
has
how the Nintendo Switch 2 works, and it has
like
tech demo
mini games.
Welcome tour.
Yeah,
Welcome
Nintendo
tour.
Switch 2 Welcome Tour. They don't have a price on that yet, but that's not coming with the console. That's a separate purchase. I guess
Which
in
we
Japan,
learned
in Japan it's like 600 and I forget how many yen, but people worked it out. It's like $6, so it might be $5, it might be $10 to download. At that point, why is it just not with the fucking thing? Because this isn't a Nintendo Land.
Because
this isn't a 1-2 Switch. It's not a game first. It is literally a tech demo.
It's not included because they fundamentally don't believe that you should give things away for free. Did we talk about that in Discord? I don't recall this. But we learned through an interview with Reggie Fils-Aimé that he had to convince them being like Nintendo corporate in Japan, to include Wii Sports with the Wii. They were not going to include that as a pack-in. That was a Reggie Fils-Aimé thing. He convinced them to do that, and obviously it was wildly successful. Nintendo believes, the corporate leadership at Nintendo believes, that they should not be giving away things for free, which is why they think it's better to charge $5 for this thing than to give it away for free.
That's crazy.
Which is so fucking backwards.
We got Astro's Playroom for free on PS5.
Yep.
Which is
that game was
great.
like my number 5 favorite game of the year.
Wii Sports.
And it was free.
So incredibly lauded.
Nintendo Land was free with the black Wii U and not the white Wii U, I think is what it was. Because the white Wii U had it was the cheaper option, the lower SKU. So I guess at that, you know, you could argue that, hey, Mario's a pack-in if you pay the extra, so Nintendo Land's pack-in if you pay extra. But yeah, like Wii Sports is kind of like pinnacle of greatest whatever, greatest pack-in. This would not be one of those, right? It is much more of a tech demo-y thing. That's just kind of showing off how the various functions of the controllers and the different tech inside of it work.
There's literally a game mode where you play World 1-1 of Super Mario Bros. And it goes from like, I don't know, 30 frames to 120 to like teach you about frame rate. And then like...
like that, that all of that is the kind of thing that like you do one time. And why you would never want to go do that again. Right.
And it would be cool to like freely, for free, learn about the technology in my console.
That would be like a fun, like that's Christmas morning opening the Switch 2, and like that's the first thing you do. It shows you all about the system, makes you feel comfortable with it, understand it, and then you go on and play the video games.
Instead, they want to charge you $10 to read like marketing materials about how the dock works.
Yep.
Get out of here.
Yep. It sucks.
We need to move on.
Yeah, there's that whole
thing. Nintendo Switch 2.
There's that whole thing. Physical games are also a whole fucking thing with this system. So because of their weird thing about how to share games, they came up with this weird way to do it with physical games. And that like a lot of modern games can't fit on a physical cart, that size of cart anymore. So they've done this thing where now there are key I think they're key cartridges where it's like when you would go to the store and buy a physical video game and there's no disc and it's just like a digital download code in the case. Fucking crazy. This, you at least get a cart that you pop in the Switch 2, and then it gives you a key to download the game digitally, but the game's not on the cart. But then whenever you want to launch the game digitally from then on, you need that authentication cart in your console.
Call of Duty's doing that, so the biggest games in the world are doing that right now, buddy.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. But then, like, what games are fully on the cart and what games aren't make no sense. Like, the Bravely Default remaster thing that they announced, which I'm really excited about. I think that sounds great. That's a great idea. Bravely Default's fantastic. The fact that it's trapped on the 3DS makes no sense. This is a great idea. Bring it back. The cartridge for Bravely Default, which is an 11 gigabyte download, is just a key cartridge. You could put the whole fucking game on the cartridge. Why is it one of these stupid key carts? Like, this breaks my brain.
At that point, why even
have those?
Why even make the physical thing?
Yes.
I guess the only thing I can think of, right, is they're all into this, how to trade games and, like, let people borrow games. Like, maybe the key cart,
it unlocks.
You can pass it to someone else and they can download it and still be able to play it. Maybe. I guess I just don't know. And that's also part of the problem, right? Is their messaging is inconsistent, confusing. This whole direct that was an hour long was missing so much critical information that they then talked about at the treehouse after. Like, that's not where the most people are going to be watching. The most people are going to watch the direct. It just, their messaging, the method in which they did it was baffling beyond even the choices themselves. But
that's Nintendo, man.
It's like, so upsetting. It's so upsetting.
It is. But it's not new.
And then this guy's jacket was so big on him. It was such a large jacket on him.
Yeah.
And just an ugly material too.
Yeah, not a good
Looked
color.
Cheap. Yeah.
Large jacket.
So that's the Nintendo Switch 2. We need to move on. If you want to hear more of our reactions and thoughts on actual games and stuff that were shown, go check out our live react video on the YouTube channel.
I think the more I looked at Donkey Kong, the more on board I am with Donkey Kong. Yes, I think I was a little down on it in the video. I just want to come out and say I'm excited to play Donkey Kong.
It looks fun. I'm sure Metroid Prime 4 will be very good. I'm very sure that Mario Kart will be very good.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, those are the only video games at all.
Well, Shea, there are so many other video games you can play on the Nintendo Switch 2.
That you've already played on other consoles that are going to run worse on the Switch 2.
Totally, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Let's talk about Game Informer. Let's talk about something positive and good. Cody, this was your critical hit for this episode.
I don't have too much to say just because there really isn't that much information that they've given out yet. But Game Informer is officially back. They're fully separated from GameSpot or GameStop at this point. They are under maybe a somewhat questionable parent.
Yeah, their new owner is like a big crypto kind of company, which isn't ideal.
Works out.
Yeah.
I'll take anything other than GameStop, though. At this point, just to have those people back and working, and
it's the whole team. Like the whole crew is
the whole
back.
team that was there that when they shut down last year is back. They're doing the print magazine still. They talked about how they're going to change that up. You can subscribe on their website to a newsletter to get information on what that's going to end up looking like. Their game release schedule's back up, which is huge. It's always a great resource to use.
Yeah.
I'm
used
just
it
happy
when
that
putting
Game
the show
Informer's
notes
back.
together.
I'm happy they're back, and hopefully they have some way to financially support them, because I'll be right there. So.
Yeah, I'll definitely be subbing to the magazine, which I had not been for several years, and I regretted it. I just didn't want to spend the money, but I'm definitely going to do it now.
Yeah. So their account creation stuff is working
print.
now. So if you're listening and that's interesting to you, make sure you go create an account now, so you get notified when.
Get that good username, bro.
Yeah, and they obviously don't have anybody's account information anymore because the change of hands, and they don't have that data anymore or anything like that. So you do need to make a new account. So go do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kyle, what do you have for the party?
Yeah, so this is a fun one. I think it's fun anyways. So Nightdive Studios wants to start remastering 360 and PS3 titles. Nightdive, of course, known for a lot of like recent HD remasters and remakes. And also worth mentioning, like this story comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. So I'm looking at his article. So Nightdive, recently they did The Thing Remastered, which went over really well. That's a really interesting video game. I watched some gameplay of that remaster. The Turok Trilogy, System Shock Remaster they did, Forsaken, Doom 64, Quake 2, Shadow Man, the legendary Shadow Man. That Blade Runner, the adventure game remaster that came out was them. P.O.'d, Rise of the Triad, and like that Star Wars Dark Forces remaster was Nightdive as well. So like they're doing pretty decent work. People across the board have been pretty happy with their stuff. Maybe some questionable art changes in that Dark Forces remaster people were not loving, but on the whole, Nightdive is a net positive, I think, for the industry in games preservation and availability and accessibility. So they have their own, and again, reading the Chris Scullion article, they have their own proprietary game engine called KEX. I'm not going to say Kex because that's a Twitch meme Kek thing, whatever. And KEX is their proprietary game engine.
I'm old.
I know.
We talked about this.
In a recent discussion with VGC, Nightdive Studio head Stephen Kick and Director of Business Development Larry Cooperman said they were keen to start looking at potential remasters of games that were only released on 360 or PS3. We stand ready, Cooperman said, which is the most like CEO statement thing to say. We stand ready. As someone who works in government contracting on the civilian side, like that is a thing that a very dated proposal language thing. You know, so-and-so corporation stands ready to support the Air Force's mission to da-da-da. Anyways, it just made me think of that. We stand ready, Cooperman said. When asked how they would handle each game, given how many studios have like closed down from that area, he noted like there are numerous aspects to take into account. I'd begin asking a couple questions, like was it 360 exclusive? Was there a PC version out there too? Because that changes things. Is there any preservation that's available? Do we have the source code? What's the quality of it? How about the assets? Those are the kinds of considerations that we have. That being said, there were some really good games that came out that should not be lost. He added, to your point though, with a game like Haze, you know, games that should not be lost. Haze, the first-person shooter. Let's say hypothetically we had access to that, and that was our big title for 2028, right? We'd go to the original designers, and we'd say, it didn't do as well as you'd hoped. I'm sure you've had a lot of time to ruminate, to think about what you would have done differently. You know, we've had these discussions before with the original developers on some of these games. We've given them an opportunity to come back and say, this is what I would have done. In the case of the System Shock 2 remastered and a lot of these other games that we've been looking at, as soon as you bring them over to import them onto newer hardware, some of those problems start to clear themselves up, like frame rate, refresh rate, texture resolution, streaming, loading times, which I think is like an interesting point, right? Like, I feel like a lot of games that didn't perform well at the time were like mid games that had bad technical issues. And
that also goes to the
make them just mid games, and then they're kind of worth revisiting, which is like an interesting thing. I
feel like that is an interesting topic that is often brought up with remasters of like, is it better to give another shot at a game that didn't do well or remaster/port a successful game?
Right.
You know, like it's interesting to like have that approach of like, Haze, a game I've never, devoted any thought to.
Right.
What if you worked on that and made it interesting and better, and like maybe there's something there?
Because then it's like, hey, someone cared enough about this to repackage it and sell it again. Maybe there is something there that I didn't know about. And then you get like the better version of that as your first experience. Right. Yeah, for sure. So specifically regarding PS3, because we all know how crazy the architecture of the PS3 was and why it makes emulation difficult. VGC asked if the console's unique system architecture could make it more difficult to remaster games that were exclusive to Sony's third console. Kick replied it would be a challenge, but he's confident Nightdive could get the job done. So
sure,
if he's saying
give us money and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, but like if he's saying he's confident they can do it, and he's making this statement about, hey, we're ready to do this, it makes me feel like they've done some internal testing and some stuff with their engine, or like a version of their engine that can maybe do this stuff. I would hope. It could also
he's also a CEO that has stakeholders that want to make money. Yeah.
Right. He said, I think the architecture, I remember the talk when the system was first released of how difficult it was for developers to get it, and that's a big problem with backwards compatibility. He talks about the PS2 and the PS3, how there was some backwards compatibility there, like literal hardware backwards compatibility that they just pulled out because it was expensive. We get to the PS3 era games. It'll be a challenge we have to face. But I think we've had enough experience to where we can do a serviceable job on a PS3 remaster. Right. So with that being said, my question for the two of you, also myself, what are some like 360 PS3 era games that are kind of like locked on those consoles that we haven't seen readily accessible ports from that you would like to see a studio like Nightdive report or remaster?
Yeah.
Shea.
Yeah, I feel like the ones that immediately came to mind are not like Haze, because that game was bad, but games that are like mid that people should play. Yeah. People that weren't playing games in the PS3 era should play. That I think could also fit into like maybe take another crack at this, maybe change some stuff. Right. I think maybe the least good example of that is Infamous 1 and 2, which are actually really good games.
They're still good.
More people should play those, but the rest of the list are games that are like deeply flawed in a variety of ways. The Prototype games, Prototype 1 and 2, those are, I mean, a lot of these end up being like third-person action shooter style games because that's frankly what was really popular at the time.
Right.
But yeah, Prototype, Sleeping Dogs, which is a game that I think is super underrated. Always wanted a sequel to that. It just didn't sell super well. I feel like
I
the
think
Yakuza
that has like
games,
some DLC, I think, like some zombie-related DLC or something.
I don't recall
that.
But I feel like the third-person real-time combat Yakuza games or like a Dragon games have sort of been spiritual successors to Sleeping Dogs. But it's basically... It's GTA Yakuza. It's fucking cool as hell. Great main character. Binary Domain, which is another game that I think is like super underrated. Very fun,
it has some
like
interesting
robot
stuff.
Humanity. Really good story. Similarly, Spec Ops: The Line, which is a not that exciting third-person cover shooter with one of the best stories of the decade. Very, very awesome. And then this isn't a PS3 game, but I'm going to bring it up anytime I am asked about games that should be remastered, which is the Xenosaga series. I know, Kyle, you're super in agreement with that. We were huge Xenosaga bros back in the day. That was like RPG of choice outside of Final Fantasy. So I'd love to see Xenosaga get remade.
Bring it back like that Final Fantasy 12 report with like the fast forward options, the speed up stuff.
Man.
The Zodiac Age one. Like do all that for them. It would be incredible.
I was very surprised in remembering that all three of those games were PS2 games.
Yeah, all three of them.
I was like, Xenosaga 3 has to have been a PS3 game, right? But no, dude, it was all PS2. Them. It's crazy.
Man, when's the last time we've had a trilogy of games released on the same console?
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Especially probably games as huge as those games were.
Or a lot of like games were all on the same generation. Arkham trilogy.
Yeah, but even that's probably 15 years old.
Yeah, I mean, It's been that long. It's been since the PS3 360 generation for sure.
Yeah. Huh. But yeah, lots of third-person action-y, shooter-y games because that was my jam back in the day.
Cody, what do you got?
So I took a different approach. I wish I had taken the approach of sort of mid-tier games that I'd like to see redone, but I just chose a bunch of games that I just want remasters for. I don't really care who does them at this point. I just want to see them. And oddly enough, except for the last one, which I just added, they're all Sony properties. Well, so that's saying something too.
Yeah.
I want to play Jak and Daxter in a really nice way. Granted, there was a PS3 remaster, I think.
Yeah,
but
Precursor or whatever.
That's trilogy.
Yeah, something.
That sounds right.
Like get those to modern consoles. I am craving a classic God of War collection of some sort, remaster. I really still hope that we see that. Cool. Uncharted series is a sort of similar one to Jak and Daxter.
There's the Nathan Drake collection, I think on
PS4. On PS4.
Yeah. And I guess you can play that on PS5.
Yeah.
I am playing it right now.
Okay, so maybe that one maybe that one doesn't necessarily need that. How awesome would a just giant Ratchet and Clank collection be on PS5? Like all those PS2 ones, a couple of the PS3 ones, just all in one package.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll hear more about Ratchet and Clank in a little bit when we get to my critical hit, but the short version is, yes, I agree. It would be great for someone to do some work to make those games playable and fun again.
And then Shea, as you were reading yours, and I liked your approach here. Fracture.
You're right.
That,
Fracture.
That's that good
The original
sort of B-tier
Geomod
level game. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, Fracture.
Get some Fracture up here.
I don't remember that game.
Like that cover art is burned into my brain because we always had like 5 copies at GameStop sitting on the shelf. That cover art is burned into my brain.
You could at any point, it was a first person shooter, Shea, and like with L1 R1, you could raise or lower the ground, and you could like create cover for yourself.
Yeah.
I have no memory of this.
It was wild. Not very good, but wild. For me, Dead Nation was a PlayStation Network game that was out, I think, if not on release, in release window for PlayStation 3. Twin stick zombie shooter. Super
that was
fun.
one of the free games I got during the infamous PlayStation Network outage.
The network outage. That's right. Dead Nation was an
back
option.
in like 2010, 2011.
Yeah, Dead Nation was very good. It did have a Vita port, but it's nothing since then. So Dead Nation would be great. 3D Dot Game Heroes. I still have one of the only pictures on my PS3 saved in the image folder is my 3D Dot Game Heroes character, which is a giant dick and balls. And it just it walks around with a sword and a shield floating in front of it. And I played that game as a penis. 3D Dot Game Heroes was really cool. Folklore. Shea, you played and really liked Folklore, right? I think I remember watching you play some. That game is hella expensive now.
That doesn't surprise me. It was not popular.
No. So Folklore would be cool. Obviously, the fucking Resistance games need a repackage. Yep. And it has to come with the Resistance 2 multiplayer. Heavenly Sword, another like B-tier action game.
I think that game sucks.
I don't remember if it was
It sucks.
Did it suck?
No, it's bad. That game is real bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, that was not... Because that was a launch game, and it was bad.
The Killzone games need a repackaging. The Little Big Planet games, I think, would be great as well. Those would be a lot of fun to revisit. And then, of course, my number one in my heart, Metal Gear Solid 4. We'll see that Master Collection Volume 2 or whatever. We'll see.
I can't believe Dark Void isn't on this list.
Same. That was my initial reaction when I saw. And maybe it's because of where my mindset was of like, what are mediocre games that would be fun to bring back?
Initially,
Dark Void, man. That's like the perfect answer for Kyle.
Yes, Dark Void would be fucking fantastic. I used to have a Dark Void shirt that I got at a flea market. Oh man, and it was very like FUBU coded. The shirt was, because it was like a graphic print that like went all the way down like one side, and felt like it would look really good with a pair of oversized FUBU jeans.
Hell yeah, bro.
That was a good shirt. All right, well, yeah, that was my critical hit. I just thought that was fun. I hope Nightdive does do this, because I'm very interested, because if they can figure it out, right, especially the PlayStation 3 architecture, once they have it figured out and have like a workflow for it, they could pump those things out or help other studios or consult with other studios and like license the use of their engine and stuff like that. I think that would be great money for them and also great for games preservation. So
I think because my initial reaction to the news that they want to remake 360 and PS3 games is the games that we bring up would not be candidates for this. Like, why would they remake fucking Prototype?
But they are, right? Yeah.
The fact that he specifically mentioned Haze makes me like, oh, maybe they would make crappy games.
Because like what he literally talks about is, hey, games that like didn't do that well, but people like want another shot at, right? So you bring back the original one, generate some interest, and maybe that makes a sequel or a remake justifiable.
And I'm sure that's their pitch to the IP holder for sure.
Yeah.
Will that work? Who knows? But yeah, that would be my pitch if I was the CEO also.
Right.
We'll see if anybody takes them up on it. Sweet. my last little thing you mentioned with Ratchet and Clank, I'm my headline, my article name for this is the terrible experience of playing games on consoles that weren't meant to play them. And this is for old school listeners of the Shea Hits Everything podcast. This would be your honorable, hate of the week that I would bring to the table, which is just a quick rant on how much it sucks to play games when you, where you're not normally supposed to play them. And my two big exposures to this have been the PlayStation Now streaming platform on PlayStation and emulation on Steam Deck. Because trying to stream games on PlayStation 5, like PS3 games, ironically, as we're talking about, it there's this thing where it doesn't work. Yeah. Right? It's they're unplayable kind of thing. Totally. So I specifically bought PlayStation Plus Premium. Is that the top tier? Whatever the top tier is.
No idea.
I think it's premium because I think it's basic, extra, and premium. Okay. I specifically bought premium because I had played the 2016 PlayStation 4 Ratchet and Clank game with my kids. They loved it, and I was like, "We're playing all the fucking Ratchet and Clank games."
Go.
So I bought PlayStation Plus Premium because I'm not Kyle. I don't have a PlayStation 1 sitting around where I can go play Ratchet and Clank.
You could be me.
I could. So we played Ratchet and Clank 1. We did not get all the way through because that game is kind of hard to play because there's no lock-on or strafing and it feels really bad. And I was like, okay, let's skip ahead. Let's jump to Ratchet and Clank Future Tools of Destruction. PlayStation 3 early life cycle game. One of my early favorite PlayStation 3 games that I'm still mad they never put trophies on because I would love the excuse to platinum that game. I've platinumed every other Ratchet and Clank game since then. Yeah. Unplayable. The frame rate is so bad. Literally 10 frames a second all the time.
Yeah.
Impossible. And I was like, fuck it. Let's jump ahead to Crack in Time. That's probably my favorite Ratchet and Clank game. One of my first platinums. Unplayable. It runs so fucking poorly.
PlayStation because now it's a PS3 game. Work.
You can't download it. You could only stream it through the PlayStation Now service.
It's probably because you're connecting to a PlayStation 3 running the game versus
I wonder
in any way running natively on.
There's limited bandwidth of players that can be playing at any given time because they specifically have a thing of when you're done playing, make sure to close out the game so that other players can enjoy it.
God.
So it's using some sort of I don't know. I'm not technically savvy enough to understand. All I know is I'm paying for a fucking service to play PS3 games that my PlayStation 5 cannot run at higher than 10 frames a second. And it's really pissing me off because I don't even want to play them because they're not fun. My kids are still having fun watching it because they don't know the difference.
Sure.
But it ain't fun not being able to aim and shoot dudes. So I don't know what to do.
Preservation is so fucking important.
It is. Man. Because these big companies are not going to do it.
Yeah.
They're just not going to do it. Yeah, that is a fucking bummer.
So I don't know. I guess we're just going to jump ahead and do what was the one on, is it just Rift Apart? No, there was one on PS4, right? Besides the 2016 one?
I don't know.
Into the Nexus? Was that PS3 also? I don't remember. Anyway, we're just going to have to jump to that and play that instead.
Has there ever been... No, PS3 had a Ratchet and Clank collection, right? That's the only remaster or collection that there's ever been?
So, yeah.
Of the original games?
Well, and I don't even think... I don't think
just any Ratchet and Clank. Has there ever been...
I don't think that from that collection has Quest for Booty in it. I think Quest for Booty was only a digital game. No, that's not true. There was a disc for Quest for Booty, I think.
I don't think so.
Ratchet and Clank Quest for Booty.
Because there was Deadshot too, wasn't that one?
That was PS2.
Oh, it's 2. Okay.
Yeah, the PS3 was Tools of Destruction, Quest for Booty, Crack in Time, Into the Nexus.
I think there is a physical Quest for Booty. Oh, hold on.
Because Quest for Booty was basically DLC.
There's an eBay listing. Is this PEGI? Is this not a US release? Yeah, I don't think there was a US physical release for Quest for Booty. Fuck.
So, there just hasn't been any sort of preservation for Ratchet and Clank at all.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
That's like a classic series.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a huge bummer.
It is.
The second part of this has a little bit of user error and a little bit of I'm complaining about something that technically I'm not supposed to be doing. So I want to at least set that up at the beginning.
Shay, are you
But I bought a
doing
Steam
crimes?
Deck. Absolutely not.
Drugs?
All of my emulation is extremely legal, but if it
Okay.
wasn't, that could be part of the problem, theoretically.
Okay.
But I bought a Steam Deck because I don't have a PC that works, and I wanted to play some specific indie games, like Case of the Golden Idol, for example.
Yeah.
That I'm not playing, but I want to be able to. But the other part of why I want to get a Steam Deck was to emulate old games. Pokemons, Marios, etc.
Yeah.
I did that. It was a huge moment.
It was hard for
me.
you. It was
It was a big moment for me to have figured this out.
Yeah.
Kyle did help me, but I mostly did it on my own.
You
It
did,
was a big moment for me. Everything that I have played has worked, with the exception of Star Wars Battlefront, but I think that's a separate problem. But playing Pokemon games has been fine because it's extremely easy. It's 2D, top down, like the controls are extremely basic. But like I've loaded up Donkey Kong 64, I've loaded up Banjo-Kazooie, Super Mario Sunshine, Smash. I played some Double Dash. I've played a lot of classics, bro. Like GameCube era classics. Unilaterally, their control schemes are fucking crazy. I was playing Mario Kart Wii, and in the controls, A is gas, and in the standard version of controls, B is drift. A is gas and B is drift. So you have to hit A and B at the same time to drift. What are we doing? It uses none of the shoulder buttons.
Can you not change that?
You can, but you have to go into the emulator and change the configuration on a per game
on the
basis.
Steam Deck, that is tough. Can be tough.
And that just sucks.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I made this the second one, because the PlayStation Now shit is legit. That's a Sony problem. Get fucked.
Yeah.
This is less of a real complaint because I'm emulating games on a Steam Deck. It's not meant for that. And there is a fix. You just have to be smart enough to figure out the fix. And I had to go on forums and do
be
all
willing
that
to
shit.
do the work and research.
That is a
and all
problem
that.
with emulation as a whole, is if you don't know what you're doing, it can be very overwhelming.
Yes.
But that's why like I combine those things into the larger category. And it really is a games preservation issue.
Right.
It is not easy to play games when they came out, like how they came out in the way that they were meant to be played. We're having to find other ways.
Right.
Streaming them through a service or emulation or whatever. And that sucks. Like it just doesn't, it never works the way it should or that you want it to. And you have to be able to figure that out. And if you can't, you're just screwed. Like for someone like me that I don't get computers, I just don't. It's like near impossible for me to play a lot of these classic games that I would really love and games that we talk a ton about. You know, we just did our top 10 games of the 90s. So many of those games are games that I would love to revisit. I did, I was playing a little bit of Super Mario Brothers 1, and that works fine because, again, it's a 2D side scroller. Like, it's very simple. But anything that is a little more intensive or like a 3D game, it's just really hard control scheme wise. When I was playing Banjo-Kazooie, like the frame rate was just terribly bad. The camera didn't work, which was granted a problem of the original game too, but it just sucks. I get all excited to emulate these games and go re-experience all of these classic games, and I go and do it and I'm like, oh no, this isn't fun. And it's not the game's fault, it's modernity's fault.
Right.
And that sucks.
Well, yeah. And so because I'm in a similar boat wanting to go back and play a bunch of old stuff, specifically stuff that I don't have strong memories of or stuff I maybe missed out on. So I've actually been streaming some of that. Like I streamed for the Mario Day, I streamed Super Mario Land 1, 2, and 3 on Game Boy, which the third one is actually Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. Like that was a lot of fun. Those were great. And then the next weekend I streamed future tools of something, I don't remember. What the fuck was that game? The Future Tactics: The Uprising. That's what it was. Which like was an XCOM like on the PS2 that had Geomod. Like you could deform the terrain and like shoot the terrain to like get better angles on the enemies and stuff. Actually kind of cool. And then I played Crash Bandicoot Warped, and that was awesome. Like all the vehicle stuff was really cool, and Warped was cool. And then I played the Alien Resurrection on PlayStation 1, which was a first-person shooter, and it was like, if the creators of Dead Space never played that game, I don't know how they arrived at some of their sound design philosophies, because that game's sound design is amazing, and it looks really cool. Like, first-person shooters on the PS1, not very good. It was one of the first video games to use the analog sticks the way that we use analog sticks in first-person shooters. And there's a legendary GameSpot review of this guy complaining about how bad it feels. He's like, you won't believe how they use the sticks. The left stick moves you forward and back and then strafes you left and right. And the right stick looks up and down and left and right. I cannot believe they did, like, it's an insanely hilarious review in retrospect, but it's like one of the first video games that did that, which is crazy. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in that game, but yeah, like, so going back and playing these old games is really gratifying and fun, and it makes me sad that you're having these stumbling blocks.
Well, because part of it is, Kyle, you're playing them on their original console.
Yes, I'm doing all original hardware.
You got the hardware and you went out and sought out the actual disc physical.
And like someday this stuff won't work anymore. Like disk rot is real. The components will stop working. There won't be replacements. And so emulation, getting that figured out is important. And it is easier to emulate than ever, but that still doesn't mean that it is easy. It is just easier than ever.
And to that point too is like you can go Kyle's approach and obtain all the original hardware to play those games. That's expensive as shit.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So there's just not a great end all be all, especially the layer on top of that all is when emulation is the most approachable yet still complicated way to do this. You have these corporations shutting that shit the fuck down and then doing it their own way on their own system.
Or not.
Or not.
Right?
Or not
doing it at all.
But it's because they're like, Nintendo's like, we haven't figured out how to monetize this, but we want to stop you from getting it for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
you're taking it away without offering an alternative solution.
Yeah. And that is, I find it to be morally objectionable.
It is tough, right?
There are
like
some
they're the IP
stuff that I understand where like some people are trying to profit off of that, like the emulator scene and stuff. Like like no, you deserve to be taken down when you're engaging in that kind of behavior. But this has to be grassroots. It has to be free, open source, whatever. That's the only way this shit works, because that's also has to be the mentality behind it. It's about preservation. It needs to be about preservation, not about stealing.
And unfortunately, companies aren't going to care about that.
No.
A human at a company might, but that's what it takes, because the shareholders, the investors are not going to care about that, because
publicly traded companies are not going to care about it.
Well, privately owned companies aren't either if they're VC backed or PE backed. Like it needs to be an angel investor that is a founder that runs the company in order to give a shit about that. Which is why you see companies like Nightdive, because that's part of their mission, and that's part of why they were founded, was to do this. Limited run games. That's why they were founded, was to do this. But if it wasn't profitable, they wouldn't be able to do it. It still has to be profitable.
Clearly it is profitable.
If you do it right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Nintendo could find a way to make it profitable to bring back all of these games in ways that are different than like what the eShop does. But it's not, juice isn't worth the squeeze, because their finance guys told them that it's not.
Yeah. And like,
so it just all sucks.
Yeah. The goodwill meter does not swing the pendulum as heavily as maybe
Nintendo doesn't need a goodwill meter, because they've got fanboys online talking about how awesome that Nintendo Switch 2 Direct was.
Yeah, those people are
Kool-Aid. The Kool-Aid tastes very good, apparently.
I wish I could just be happy about things.
I don't.
it's better for everyone that I'm not.
Yeah. All right. Well, those were our critical hits for this episode. Let's move on to talk about Fantasy Critic.
Yes.
Because this is our first month doing an update, and because I decided to draft primarily games that were coming out in like January, February, and March, we have a lot of updates. There's a lot of scoring happening already.
A lot of movement on these rankings, on the standings. So up on the screen here, Shea and Cody can't see it. I'm not sharing with them. But the viewers at home, unless you're listening to the podcast, viewers on YouTube can see I have the standings pulled up. So Shea's publisher, Shenanigan Entertainment, currently has 103 points. 7 of your 12 games have released. You have 5 games left.
Yeah, baby.
You are projected to score 168 points.
Bullshit.
Cody, your publisher, UbiHard, currently have 42 points, and only 3 of your games have released, with 9 pending release. Projected points, the highest, 182 projected score. That's all like projections based on things coming out or whatever.
You know what's hurting both of us though, Shea, is that I have counterpicked Donkey Kong Bonanza, which unfortunately is real and coming out.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you have counterpicked Silk Song, which hasn't been confirmed.
But it did say 2025.
I'm pretty sure.
It was in the Nintendo Direct and said 2025. I feel like we're reaching a point.
Shea, one of your picks was a Mario 3D platformer, which
I'm going to get 0 points on.
They could announce it at Summer Game Fest, but why would you not announce it with a Switch 2 announcement?
There's no way.
Yeah. And then my publisher, Naughty Hog, I only have 10 points because only one of my games has come out, and it scored like an 80. I am projected to score the lowest at 102 points, but that's because I took some massive swings on some unknown games. So,
but
it's really
one of those swings,
anybody's game at this point.
One of those swings was Donkey Kong.
That's true.
No one expected there to be a Donkey Kong game except
Some
Kyle, and he was right. So who knows?
I was basing that off of stuff I'd heard from people talking. So, all right, let me scroll down. So we can go through Shea's games, Shenanigan Entertainment. Shea, you have do you have your stuff pulled up yourself?
I do. Yes,
okay.
And just as a repeat, if you want to hear our logic, you should absolutely go back and watch that episode. It's on the YouTube channel of our Fantasy Critic draft, where we talked about like our strategies or lack thereof in some cases. But yeah, you can watch that live draft. So thus far, and like I said, I definitely, my strategy going in was pick as many games as possible that have definitive release dates that are unlikely to be delayed. And secondarily, especially in the later rounds, focus on remasters, DLCs, things that are like safe for high to good scores. What I really wanted to do was like, if all of my games come out and I can average like 11 to 12 points per game, I'm gonna take this thing home. I'm like halfway there because, as we mentioned, Mario ain't gonna happen, which sucks. So that's gonna be a 0. But across all my games, I'm averaging like 14.5 points per game right now, which is pretty good. Yeah. So I had Monster Hunter Wilds was my very first pick. That currently is an 89, so I got 19 points. Split Fiction, which is at a 90, which is 20 points, which is very excellent.
Yeah.
Civ 7 I thought would be a safe pick, but apparently a lot of people haven't loved it as much. That only scored an 80 on Open Critic. Avowed was a little bit of a homer pick. I wanted to pick some games that like I was personally passionate about. That one also has been kind of mid at an 80. Citizen Sleeper 2, a game I really loved and expected to be great, it had an 86. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, that original game I think had like an 89 on Open Critic, and I was like, yes please, and that has an 87. And then Rift of the Necrodancer has an 81. So as Kyle mentioned, I think I'm like 104, at least on my view, is my total points.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good. The Mario thing sucks.
Strong start.
If Silk Song comes out, that might suck.
Yeah.
But my other counter pick was Outer Worlds 2, and I'm still pretty confident that ain't coming out this year.
I wonder.
So I'm pretty happy with where I am. I'm nervous
for the benefit of the listeners at home, go through the games you have on your list that are not out yet.
Not out yet is Elden Ring Night Rain, which I'm a little nervous about. The Mario 3D platformer, which will not happen. Sea of Stars DLC called Throes of the Watchmaker, which is supposed to come out in the spring. I'm now becoming nervous because there still isn't an actual release date for that.
Yeah.
Talos Principle Reawakened, which comes out in just a couple of weeks, I believe.
I think so,
And then Skate Story, which is another one that doesn't have an official release, but it was delayed out of 2024 as part of Devolver's like delayed showcase.
How do you feel overall with your unreleased?
Okay. I feel okay. I'm not super confident that Night Rain's going to hit like a 90, but it's not going to suck. And then games like Talos Principle, I think, is a very safe bet. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. My average scores have been solid. So yeah, I think my like play it safe strategy is working thus far.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's definitely paying off so far. All right, Cody.
Yeah.
You be hard.
Ooh, that's right. I sure do.
Walk us through your scored titles.
Yeah. So far we have Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza, and Hawaii. I don't know why. I guess maybe I thought that might do a little better.
I would have thought so too.
It got an 81.
It's still good,
which isn't bad by any means. But for a Yakuza game, and especially Like a Dragon, I figured it would do a little bit better. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is my moneymaker right now. That's at an 89.
I'm still genuinely surprised how high that is. I mean, I believe it deserves it. I just didn't think other people were going to think that.
Correct. Yeah.
And you got great value on that because that was one of your like later picks.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. It was super late. And then Shadows, Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's at an 82. That's actually higher than I thought that would be as well. So I'm pretty. Those are my only 3 scored games right now. I have 42 points with those. Pretty happy with that, honestly. All things considered. What I don't have, or what is unreleased yet, is Ghost of Yotei, which I still believe is coming this year. The 2025 Call of Duty, which again, pretty safe bet that there's going to be a Call of Duty game this year.
Yeah.
Mario Kart World, I think
That's fair.
Mario Kart World, which at the time when we did the draft was an unannounced Mario Kart game, that should do pretty well. Death Stranding 2, which we got confirmation is coming out this year, so that's helpful.
I think I counterpicked that.
You did,
which is unfortunate.
Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, which also got a date since then, I think. Silk Song, as we mentioned. Outer Worlds 2, which we discussed briefly. Cairn, which is one of those sort of close to home. I'm really looking forward to that game. I hope it does well. And then Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I got 2 Switch 2 games.
Those are going to review really well because they're the only games people can play, and they're just going to be happy to have something to play, regardless of quality. And then if they are good, that's going to push them even higher.
Well, it's one of the things of like that we recorded this in January that hindsight either makes you look like a genius or makes you look like an idiot.
Totally.
And like Metroid Prime 4 was your last pick.
Right.
Because at the time we had no idea. They hadn't had like re-teased it, but they hadn't re-revealed it. And so at least for me, I was like, there's no way it's coming out this year.
Yeah, at that time I think we thought it might just be a Switch 1 game.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Yep. Man.
Cody, your team's looking pretty solid. I hate to say it, but because a lot of the games that I didn't expect to release, like Metroid Prime 4, I didn't know that Death Stranding 2 was going to come out this year.
Right.
Like Silk Song is another good example of game I was like, there's no way it's releasing this year. The fact that most of them are now gonna release this year makes me very nervous.
Yeah, I think
about getting my 0 from Mario.
Yeah. Hey, if Outer Worlds doesn't come out,
that's really true. There you go. That would be your 0.
Well, and we also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 other games that we're going to be doing pickups for after Summer Game Fest, and another counter pick. So that'll switch stuff up as well. All right, my publisher Naughty Hog. I have two scored games because I guess South of Midnight started scoring, but they haven't called it yet because it's not released. South of Midnight currently sitting at a 78, which feels a little low. I bet it goes up to hit 80 by the time it's actually out. Wanderstop at an 81. So nothing hugely scoring. The games I have that are unscored: Doom: The Dark Ages. Unannounced
I imagine will be good.
Yeah, unannounced standalone Venom game from Insomniac. Donkey Kong Bonanza, which at the time was unannounced Donkey Kong game, which we now know what it is. Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
That should do good.
GTA 6, which I'm still not sure it's going to be this year.
Crazy.
Mouse, PI for Hire. Judas, the new Ken Levine game. Mandragora, Whispers of the Witch Tree, which comes out here in a couple of weeks. Pokemon Legends Z to A, and Building Relationships. Building Relationships is a wild swing. I have no clue if that's going to be out this year or not. And I also, it's one of those games where like it might not even get enough reviews to matter. But that's what I'm looking at.
So you counterpick the Mario game. If it doesn't come out, do you get points for that, or do you just get 0?
It's a net 0. Yeah,
0.
No positive or negative. It's a 0 for Shea and a 0 for me, which in some ways is kind of best case. It's the safest counterpick option is to get something that doesn't come out.
Right.
It's funny, like looking at the current release schedule, April's going to be a big month for Kyle because you have South of Midnight, which hasn't finalized scores yet. Mandragora and Claire Obscura all come out in April, so you're going to start getting on the board, positive or negative.
We'll all start to kind of pull in sync with each other for the next flagship pod, I think. So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, like I mentioned, 6 more pickups after Summer Game Fest, and then we also each get a counter pick. So it is still anyone's game. Cody has a strong showing right now, but we only have 2/3 of our games picked. So
yeah, I could really fuck up
these lists could look very different. When we do our
that's
pickups.
very true.
So yeah, well, that's fun. That's a fun thing for us to keep doing. I'm enjoying that.
That'll be fun to check back in on each month for sure. All right, moving on to side quests, which are our emails. If you want to send us an email, you can do so to partyselectpod@gmail.com, just like our good friend Adam did.
Hey,
Adam
Adam.
writes, "Hey guys, congrats on the new podcast and welcome Cody. Funny to hear you on the podcast after hearing your emails on Shea Hates Everything." See, man, like sometimes if you're a good enough fan, we bring you right on board.
Yeah, let's not make that promise. 3 is a good number.
Excited to see what you guys do with the new structure. I actually thought of my own quick question, so I thought I'd ask it here. What's a video game that you know deep down isn't a very good video game, but that you'll defend to the death if someone starts talking shit about it? What do you guys think?
We talked about it earlier, Dark Void.
Perfect.
Not a bad game.
I think a lot of people didn't like it that much. And
to be fair, Adam says isn't very good. He doesn't say is a bad game.
It's not very good. And I would say Dark Void is a fine game that my attachment to is like 30% ironic. Yeah.
That's a higher percentage than I would have guessed.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you talk about Dark Void a lot.
It didn't start out 30% ironic. As time goes on and I keep going back to it to look at it, it becomes more ironic because it's not awesome. It's not very good for sure. I do not think it is bad. It's probably like a 7.25 out of 10. I really respect the ideas that it has.
I need to see you replay this game.
Today. I don't own a copy of it, which I am so
horribleness.
Sad. It's probably like $10, so I should just buy it. I should just buy it and stream it. But yeah, definitely.
Cody, what about you?
For me?
So I wrote down a couple ideas. I don't think the perception was super great, but in playing the Assassin's Creed games, I really liked Assassin's Creed Revelations. And I feel like that was like of the 3, like people just didn't really care about that game or didn't speak on it. But I really, 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 I think it's on par with the other 2 games in that trilogy. I think it's really good.
It's besides Black Flag, it's the one I remember the most fondly. And like watching you replay the Assassin's Creed games recently, and like that first sequence on the bridge in Revelations. That's Revelations, not 2, right? On the bridge, where it's very much like West Side
Revelations
Story.
Is where you're playing old Ezio.
Old Ezio, yeah.
I was thinking of original 2. Okay, well, maybe I'm just conflating that beginning segment with like all the other stuff you do in Revelations.
There is a like base defense thing at the beginning of Revelations.
Yes, Revelations with the base defense stuff. Yeah. I was thinking those were part of the same video game. They're not.
But there also is in 2, you're defending an attack on your like villa or whatever.
Right.
So like that is also a thing.
Yeah.
I also had Dark Souls 2.
Okay.
Definitely the weakest, the least perceived.
People like to come down on that one a lot. Yeah.
That's a good game.
It's quite literal hub and spoke design on that one. It's probably my second favorite Dark Souls game.
Yes. Yep.
1 and then 2.
Yep. And then lastly, I know neither of you will agree with me here, but that sort of goes in the spirit of the question.
Don't say
it. Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
I'm
worse.
Sorry, you'll defend Kingdom Hearts 3?
There's nothing wrong with that game.
I thought you were going to say Dragon Age the Veilguard, but you said a worse video game.
That's not a not very good game.
Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh,
it's a good game that I will defend.
This Kingdom Hearts 3 is... We had a fucking journey with Kingdom Hearts 3. This was back in the OG Shea Hates Everything podcast before we quit doing that podcast because I had kids. I think like 3 episodes in a row, I had like 20-minute long rants about Kingdom Hearts 3 in 3 different episodes because of how fucking shit that game is.
I'm pretty sure we stopped doing the podcast not because you had kids, but because of Kingdom Hearts 3.
I platinumed that game. I love that game.
That game is dog shit.
I platinumed that game, brother.
Man.
Dude.
Man.
That is...
I beat it, though. I fucking beat that game.
It's probably
defend it to the death,
of the
bro.
core three, it's third, but there is not a large gap for me between it.
I think Kingdom Hearts 2 has like gotten worse over time. Like the last time I revisited, I think it was like the 2.5 HD that they put out on PS4. It was the last time I played it, so it's been many years. But I remember playing it and being like, this game is not that great. But Kingdom Hearts 1 is still an absolute
still
classic.
The gold standard. It's a perfect video game.
I say that to say like Kingdom Hearts 1 is like way in its own tier. Kingdom Hearts 2 is like not that good. Kingdom Hearts 3 is like sub-basement.
Look, if I didn't care about games, if I didn't care about games preservation, I would have burned my collector's Kingdom Hearts 3 that's up on this shelf right now, laughing at me. Ha ha!
Anyway.
Hey, you know what? I gave a good answer to the question, right?
You did.
Yeah.
You did.
Adam,
Mine, I feel like it's...
Damn it, Adam. I didn't want to know that about my best friend.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I respect you less because of that. But that's fine. That's the point.
And also, while I have the platform here, Veilguard is pretty good. So I'll just say that too.
Yeah, we don't care. Mine, I feel like is kind of my go-to answer whenever this kind of question comes up. It's the one that immediately pops to my mind, and that's Final Fantasy 13. I think that game's story is very stupid.
Yeah.
I think the fact that it takes like literally 30 hours of gameplay before you can even make your own party and actually experiment with the different class systems is
crazy.
Insanity. However, I fucking love that game.
It's
I would not put it in the... it's not like a top 5 Final Fantasy. I'm not being crazy about it, but I really like it. I've played that game to completion 3 or 4 different times. On multiple occasions, I've committed to like going for the platinum, which is a very time-consuming platinum. You have to fully max out every single character, which is like literally billions of experience points. And I've attempted it multiple times and always given up, unfortunately, because you also have to beat all of the like side boss marks, and there are like 100 of them.
Oh my god!
But I love that game. I really like the characters.
13 is like Final Fantasy. Every Final Fantasy game is weird, and so therefore no Final Fantasy game is weird because they're all weird, so therefore their weirdness makes is normalized within Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 13 is the weirdest Final Fantasy game, I think. Because
so?
it is weird in ways in which no other Final Fantasy game is weird. Structurally, structurally, the combat system, like how smooth all the characters are.
I don't think the paradigm system is like that far out of the box. It is one of my favorite combat systems in any Final Fantasy game. It's like a really good combination of turn-based ATB stuff, which like I like both of those. They're very different.
Turn-based?
It's like an ATB system.
Yeah. But like you get
seven is ATB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where it's turn based, but like a meter is filling up, and then
you're not moving around in combat at all.
You can, but it doesn't really do anything.
Right.
Okay.
In a similar way in 12.
Because in 12 was sort of like ATB, but you could move. Right?
Yeah, and in 12 movement doesn't really do anything.
It doesn't. It's like MMO. 12's like an MMO.
12's like an MMO where you program actions through the Gambit system.
And I also love the combat in 12.
Right,
I love the combat in most Final Fantasy games,
Yeah.
and even saying that 13 is among my favorite, because once you get to the crazy late game, like you're doing the stupid hard shit, you have to like super customize your characters and their paradigm classes, and it feels like a different game that you never get to see in the actual game. So it's like you need to play the game for 30 hours before it gets fun, and then you need to play the game for another 100 hours before it gets really fun. That sounds appealing, right?
Yeah,
but it
that's
fucking
great.
is. I love it. I love Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah. How do you feel about 2 and Lightning Returns? Is Lightning Returns the third one?
I have not played Lightning Returns.
Okay.
Final Fantasy 13-2 is maybe worse than Kingdom Hearts 3.
Whoa.
Final Fantasy 13-2, I did play the entire game. There's like a Pokemon mechanic that's actually kind of cool and interesting.
Oh, so it's like Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop distance, you mean?
Final Fantasy 13-2 is among the only games that I have like just skipped all dialogue and cutscenes in. Like I can count on two hands the number of story-oriented games that I skipped the entire story of, and 13-2 is on that list. Sucks. That game sucks.
Wow. Crazy.
Thank you for the question, Adam. If any of you all listeners have a question, you can send an email to partyselectpod@gmail.com. If you're on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment. If that's easier, you can do that, and we will read that in the next flagship episode. Let's move on to monthly game releases. We're all going to kind of take turns running through this.
Yeah. So something that previously came out this month on April 2nd last week is Croc Legend of the Gobos Remastered. That came out digitally. I don't know if there are normal physical copies of the game. Maybe there are. My collector's edition that I have pre-ordered is not through manufacturing yet. They're like wrapping up. I got an update email about it a little bit ago. So I don't have Croc yet, but I will have Croc soon. But all of you can download Croc today. And I recommend you do that because it's out on everything. PS5, X and S, Xbox One, PS4, Switch, PC, whatever you want. Get you some Croc. Support Argonaut Games. They make cool games. And
that's
like,
definitely a
Croc
game,
is fun.
Like if I get like a little gap where I've got nothing, that's like at the top of my list of a game that I want to go back to. Because I've really enjoyed going back to other classics of that
Spyro
era, like
Reignited
the Spyro
trilogy,
collection.
the Crash or Crash Insane trilogy, like that stuff holds up really well with like a nice coat of paint. And Croc is the remastered collection is very much that. So,
let's see. Last week as well on the 3rd, The Last of Us Part 2, which is a good game, released on PC.
Oh, okay.
Is that a game that you'll defend to the death?
It's a good game.
That's
It's a very good game,
really
so it
answer the
doesn't qualify. Yeah.
On the 8th, day after this podcast comes out, South of Midnight's coming to Xbox on Game Pass as well as PC. Looks cool.
And then, South of Midnight looks great. On the 10th, Blueprints comes out, which is the like first-person puzzle game. Which
people have been talking in hushed tones about this because of some embargo stuff, but people seem to be like, "This is my game of the year," but I'm not going to tell you what game it is.
I know Jason Schreier was out saying that, like, I played a game that is one of the best games I've ever played, and it's almost probably Blueprints.
Right.
So curious to see what that's all about. That's on the 10th for PS5, Series X and S, and PC.
Also on the 10th is Star Overdrive. This one is coming to Switch. This is like a third-person sort of exploration, kind of like not surfing on water, but like land surfing kind of exploration game.
This was one of their partner games at the final Switch 1 Direct that we did a live reaction of. You can go check that out on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a good, like, one of those mid-tier type AA games.
Right.
Also on the 10th, good to mention for me because it was on my fantasy draft team, Talos Principle Reawakened, coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And then on the 15th is Tape 2 of Lost Records Blue and Rage. I still have not played Tape 1. I fully intend to. Heard some mixed things.
It's probably best you waited for this because I heard the ending of Tape 1 was kind of a nothing sandwich. So I wonder if there's some good, hopefully good resolution at end of Tape 2.
They delayed Tape 2 like over a month into April, which is also a little bit nerve-wracking. But that's coming out on the 15th on PS5, Xbox, and PC.
And then on the 17th, we're getting the PS5 version of Indiana Jones, which
crazy.
It comes with a full physical edition and physical collector's edition.
The collector's edition is so cool. It comes with a globe that you can it all comes in. It comes in a globe.
Pretty freaking neat.
It's awesome. Also on the 17th is a game on my Fantasy Critic draft, Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree. That's a side-scrolling Dark Souls-like coming out on PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And it looks pretty good. The day after, on the 18th, is the Lunar Remastered Collection, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. If you don't know what Lunar is, it was a couple of games that came out on like the original PlayStation. I think there was maybe like a PS2 game. I don't know what all is in this collection, if it's just the PS1 games or not. But they like largely lauded as like one of those top tier JRPG games from the original PlayStation. On the 22nd is Post Trauma, coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Post Trauma was teased, I don't know if it was like a Game Awards thing. It was one of those big shows. It's a very inspired by original Resident Evil, like fixed camera angles, but like nicer graphics. And it has an interesting mechanic where when you aim, it actually goes into like first person. So you have these pulled back third person fixed camera angles and then an actual like first person aiming combat style, and very much, inspired by original Resident Evil. So that looks very interesting. I think it's an independent game. So that's just one that I've had on my list for a while that I find I hope is good.
Then on the 24th is Clair Obscur Expedition 33 for the PS5, Series X and S, and PC. Very much looking forward to this game.
Come on, man.
I'm super curious potential to see how it comes together for sure.
There's a super long, like hour long or maybe 2 hour long GameSpot documentary where they went to Japan and met some of the developers. They were doing an event there where you could get some hands-on and like some gameplay demo stuff. And GameSpot actually took like a couple of the creative director and like someone else, one of the developers, and went around Japan to a bunch of those like retro game stores, retro record stores, and like talked to them about what their core gaming memories are, the things that inspired them from these Eastern RPGs, and like that they worked into the game, and kind of like trailing some of the lineage of some of the design choices from Clair Obscur back to some of these older games. That was a really, really great travelogue / dev doc. I recommend people check it out. It's Tam and Lucy from GameSpot primarily. 25th of April, Days Gone Remastered, coming to PlayStation 5. The game everyone wanted. People are crying out for this video game, for this remaster.
One of two firm release date PlayStation releases for the year.
That's true. Yes, you're right. One of two.
Exciting times to be a PlayStation 5 owner.
Yeah. Days Gone, that is a fine video game.
It's also it was free on PlayStation Plus several months ago. Yeah. So I just don't understand who the fucking audience is for this. It's bizarre.
Me.
Why would you buy this?
Because it's kind of funny. Okay. So I'm buying it because I am one of the weirdos that does want a new Days Gone game, because the story kind of ends in this. There's a resolution, but there's a little bit of ambiguity at the end of it, and like it's cliffhangering some stuff. And I kind of want to know what happens, because by the end of it, you become somewhat endeared to the characters despite their,
Sam Witwer-ness.
Yes, despite the Sam Witwer-ness, the deakiness of their characters. You kind of become endeared to them by the end. It's quite the wacky cast of characters in that grim, dark biker video game. But I am interested to see what happens next, and it was a very fun game to play. The giant hordes, fighting those was awesome and like really truly terrifying and really like electrifying. And so to see what they could do on like another iteration of something like that, I find interesting. I would like to see that, and one of the ways in which I can tell them I would like to see that is to buy this thing. Plus, I'm a physical games media sicko, so I want to collect it. And then lastly, 30th of April, Skin Deep is coming out on PC. Have either of you heard of this game, Skin Deep?
Yes.
Okay. It is very much a sim game. Sci-fi.
Simpson game?
A simulation person's simulation kind of game where it's like,
so not
the Sims.
Running. Okay.
Not the Sims. This is not Inzoi 2.0. Okay. Skin Deep. It's kind of like got a little bit of a wacky sense of humor, but it's just like systems upon systems upon systems, like hunger and thirst and sleep and all those, but like other wackier types of systems, stealth, hacking.
There's a sneeze meter.
Yeah, there's a sneeze meter. It's like there's a lot of weird, fun.
This was on
stuff like that.
The Next Fest. I remember seeing.
Okay, yes, there was a demo.
I think you're right.
On Next Fest. Yes.
Yeah.
So that is coming out on the 30th. Very interesting, weird, kind of funny. Feels kind of like experimental, which I'm interested in. So.
Yeah.
And
that's April. Lots of mid-tier type stuff, I think, across this month, which is totally fine with us. I think, as we were talking about our game select game and our choices there, I think we all immediately gravitated towards Clair Obscur because we're all pretty hyped about it and certainly interested in checking it out. Because it comes out on the 24th, it's just going to be tough for us to have like a meaningful conversation about a game when we've only got like 1 week to talk about it. So we looked earlier in the month and found another really good option, which is South of Midnight.
Yeah.
And I know, Cody, for you, it's not really a game that you would normally be interested in checking out. I think that's what we had talked about. But it's on Game Pass, which now you get to resubscribe to Game Pass to play it.
I'll probably
so we're gonna check that out. And the reviews have been sort of in the middle, honestly, like kind of what I would expect from a game like this, where the combat's not really like the thing. It's more about the style and the tone and the setting and the characters.
Yeah.
But that's A-okay with me. So yeah, very excited to check that one out. If you want to play along with us, you can play South of Midnight on Game Pass or on PC, whatever you want to do. And you can send us your thoughts. partyselectpod@gmail.com, or next episode, we're going to have an in-depth conversation about it. You play it, you watch that video, you leave a comment, and we'll reply to you.
Yeah. But ideally you play it when we're playing it over the next month, and let us know how it's been going for you, and then we can talk about your feedback and your thoughts while we talk about ours and kind of have that conversation together. If you
send us an email, we can prep for it and include that as part of the show. But if you leave a comment, we obviously can't do that. But would love your thoughts on the game either way. That's part of the fun of this and playing all that stuff together. So that's what we'll be doing in April from a gaming perspective. From a content perspective, what y'all can expect. Mentioned this already, but in April, we already did our live react to the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. If you go back a couple of weeks, as I was out sick, Kyle and Cody did a live react to the final Nintendo Switch 1 games sort of live stream that happened.
Yeah.
So you can check that out. We've got this episode that's live currently that you're watching / listening to. Over the remainder of the month, towards the mid to back end of the month, we're going to be doing a top 5 games of 2001. Oh, yeah. So we did our top 10 games of the 90s.
Yep.
We're moving into a new millennium, as the kids say.
Hell yeah.
And
so that will be highly contentious.
Yeah.
Go
the
ahead,
reason
Kyle.
we're not doing the year 2000 is because Shea, you and I did a games that suck and games that don't suck of the year 2000 on the Shea Hits Everything podcast, which immediately preceded
Correct.
Party Select. So on the
Correct.
podcast feed, you can go back and listen to that, or on the Shea Hits Everything YouTube channel, you can find that video, the podcast version of that on YouTube. And then so with Cody now, we're going to move on to 2001, and then ideally, right, we work our way through the 2000s, then do another top 10 of the decade. So
hell yeah. We talked about maybe we'd have to do a top 20 because
there's gonna be
our
a lot.
top 10 of the 90s was very difficult, and it's going to be more difficult in the 2000s.
It was tough. It was tough.
Justice for Dr. Mario.
Look forward to that later in April. And then we're also going to be doing our tier list episode, which we were going to do in March. And then I got sick and had bronchitis. Kyle was also sick, and it just never came together. So we're going to do it this month, which is the coolest looking video game consoles. This is every game console to ever release. Important. We're going to tier them out and tell you which ones are cool and which ones aren't.
And now we can have the Switch 2 on there. Yeah.
And we can include the Switch 2. Yes, absolutely. And that's our content schedule. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Make sure you're following the podcast wherever it is that you engage with podcasts. The top 5 games of 2001 will be an audio episode as well as a video episode. The tier list will be exclusively on YouTube because it's going to be much better if you can see the tier list and do all that stuff. So make sure you're subscribed there. Thank you. We love you. If you want to join our party, you can do so by subscribing, following, sending us an email, partyselectpod@gmail.com. Find our podcast wherever you find your podcasts. Leave us a review. We'd love to read that. We'll read it on the next episode if you want to leave one. Most importantly, you can tell your friends because we want to be buds. We just want to all be friends. But thank you all for listening. Kyle and Cody, thank you for joining. As always, we will see you back, I don't know, in a couple of weeks with the next episode, and early in May for the next flagship episode of Party Select. Peace out.